All right. We are live and direct. Big up for everybody who tunes in and will be tuning in. You know how it goes. We're here for another day of transforming the way you think, transforming your results in life, and just sharing with each other uh, the way things work and things that don't work, you know? So, all these conversations are extremely necessary as we move forward. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat exactly how people can call in for those who want to call in. Please call in here. Big up everybody tuning in. All of those people in Facebook land, YouTube land, Twitter land, or X land as they call it now. Today should be a very, very enlightening show. Very interesting show. We're gonna talk about Botswana today, and let me go to the sites in specific and make sure that everything is pinned. Yesterday, we had a great show yesterday. We just covered news, and we went over a bunch of things yesterday. I think that the people who tuned in yesterday got a lot out about the curation of Twitter and how you curate Twitter to get the best results in terms of information from true movers and shakers in the world. And I saw it go. So what we're gonna do is, you know how we do. We're just gonna line up everything and then get you all situated with some nice music of artists that you may not know about. But let me play a video that we love. I'm gonna play two of them probably. Um, so this was to me a few years ago the song of the year, and it's from one of the great Virgin Islands reggae artists. His name is Ross Batch. And we're gonna play a song called "Together" for everyone to tune in to. And as you know, as usual, and we wait for more people to tune in. I just got in. I get in a little bit late, so I am going to make sure that Blessed Love Kashaku, we're going to pin the message there. And on X Twitter, I'll also put the call in as well for people to call in. All right. So this should be a very, very interesting show today because we're going to talk about a country that doesn't get much coverage in Africa. It's Botswana. Now, when people talk about Africa, many times they'll talk about Ghana. Um, Maybe you hear about Kenya, Nigeria. And when you talk about a lot of the African heroes, you'll hear the Kwame Nkrumah, the Haile Selassie's, Thomas Sankara. You'll hear Patrice Lumumba, but you don't hear about Botswana or its leaders. But it turns out that Botswana had one of the fastest growing economies in history out of any country. So this needs to be discussed. It needs to be evaluated. It needs to be investigated. And then we start asking ourselves, just like when we did our cross sectional study on Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, and then we also did the study of El Salvador and Nayib Bukele. You start asking yourself, why I never heard of these people before? I'm talking about in the mainstream educational system and in the, educational system you get from like the different circles that you might have moved in terms of, you know, getting consciousness in your life, you tend to hear about the same characters, historical characters that, we tend to study, but in the same countries, but there's a lot of information being left out. There's a lot being left out. And what I seek to do with the show is to really expose people to the not so beaten path. Because if you know what everyone else knows, then you're not going to actually have any knowledge that makes you unique or even stand out. So therefore, it's important to branch out and get more information and more analysis. And why is it that most of us don't know that Botswana went from the second poorest country in Africa to the country with the greatest growth spurt almost in history? Like, and that's because of the leadership that was in place and that has been in place. And they have one man who was basically their first president who did not steal from the country. Remember what Nayib Bukele said in his campaign slogan is that there's enough money to build a country as long as people don't steal. So we see the difference when leaders actually use any income that they get from the country to either line their own pockets for themselves and their children, or to actually develop a country and what can be done. And it turns out that Botswana was very fortunate to have a leader who was not stealing, who was actually investing in the country and making things happen that created a serious growth in the economy. And I think the average income of a Botswanan before the first president took power, I believe it went up 10,000%. I believe that's the numbers, right? So we're going to get to the bottom of this, y'all. But as people start piling in and coming in to listen, we like to lace the people with some music. So I like to give you all some choice music. And so this is an artist, one of the great artists coming from Islands, and his name is Ross Batch. And he has a tune that he released some years ago that I think is one of the greatest songs that I've heard. And this is a video, and it's done very well. So y'all enjoy. St. Croix,
I come here to stand. Not if you make believe, know who I am. Suffer for so long, under them sham. I feel it in the wind, and then we burn down Babylon. Say, can you feel it? Alright. Babylon born when the Rasta come together. Say, can you feel it? Rastafari. Babylon done when the Rasta come together. You hear me say, I am. Burn down Babylon when we come together. You hear me say, I am. Babylon done when African come together. Ooh, righteous knowledge, seek progress, collective security, for I and I invest. Must have to make it somehow, must have to make it some way. In a song vision, Rasta man sight of Babylon a fade away. We fighting on the battlefield and do our best.
What's up,
no
Laura?
Struggle and trial and agony throughout the test. Life bring no circumstances still, I stay blessed. It's a time for unification, the Rasta man suggests. Can you feel it? Alright. Rasta come together. Can you feel it? Rastafari. Babylon done when African come together. You hear me say, aya, aya. Babylon done when Rasta come together. You hear me say, aya, aya. Babylon done when African come together. So feel the spirit, alright. Don't you get deceived by their lies. There is no limit, alright. Universe still higher than the sky. Yeah, we are moving spirituality. We are moving as one. We are gonna build up economically and don't little into much. We are gonna look up what we want another. Don't stand together with me, African brother, and the fulfillment of the mental netta. Can you feel it? Alright. Babylon come when the Rasta come together. Say, can you feel it? Rastafari. Babylon born when African come together. You hear me say, yeah.
Steel pulse, and that's pressure. Pressure's on the left, steel pulse in the
Babylon
middle.
born when Rasta come
We
together.
got blast attitude,
You
you know?
hear me say, yeah. Yeah. Babylon born when African come together.
Babylon burn when Africans come together, you know? So simple, you know? Simple way to put it. And that's what meaningful lyrics is about, you know? Things said simply. And we're gonna get to the next one before we get into the whole Botswana. I just wanted to give people a little time since I came on a little late, about 10 minutes late. Let's give people some time, and we're gonna keep the theme and the vibes going. And this is from Bamboo Station, leaning on Africa, you know? Like to give the people the best, you know? Best of what we have to offer. Bamboo Station, you know?
We enter through the doors of no return, but yet it has brought us to a distant land. This distant land with its footprints on the sand. Yet you can see it in our colors, the way in which we walk, our laugh, the joys in which we have had here in this part of this land. Seeing the retention. Yes, let us lean on Africa. Let us lean on Africa because that is our source. That is our life-given existence.
pause because I've just gotten word that the stream has been suspended on YouTube. So let us see if that's actually the case and it's going to come back. Let me go back to YouTube and see. You all would have loved Leaning on Africa. I don't know if there's a copyright issue. It might not be Leaning on Africa. It might have been with the song that we played with Batch, Come Together, you know? But we shall find out shortly. See, the stream is unavailable, it says. And so those of you, okay. So they say it's unavailable, but it might be allowed to come back on. We'll see. So I am not sure. You might have to go to Twitter to catch this because Twitter does not suspend the streams. So we'll see if they allow us to come back on and can take it from there. Let me see if it's on YouTube. I mean, if it's on Facebook as well. And we'll see. And then we can start to get started. Let me just check out. That's what happens when you play music sometimes. Even though Batch is somebody, I didn't think that it would be something that would be affected. But yeah, I didn't think it'd be affected. There's a Batch is a brethren out of the VI, so I didn't think that would have any copyright issues. But uh, we're still on Facebook Live, and we're going to see if we're back. So we are not back on YouTube. It says stream suspended for policy violation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off of YouTube and try to bring it back. Okay. So let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. Uh, and it. Sorry for y'all tuned in on Twitter and Facebook, but we just got taken off of YouTube. I just want to make sure. Okay. We just want to make sure that okay, you can. All right. All right, let's see what happens here. I know this has happened before with YouTube, y'all, and they had it running back. All right, we're back. We're back on YouTube. All right. So it's a musical something, you know? So it looks like they blocked us. Yeah, they blocked us when we were playing the Batch song, Come Together. I don't know if they'll do the same for Leaning on Africa. That I don't know. But I guess since they took so much time away, we can get started on this. Botswana talking. Maybe I'll play what I was going to play a little bit later. But I always want to start with some nice music for y'all. All right, people are tuned in. My folks on YouTube, can you just text in the chat, see this now? Just text and say that you can see it now because I'm able to see it on YouTube. Just say, yeah, we can see it. Those on YouTube. And if this happens again, you can always go on Twitter. Just find me on Twitter and, we'll get straight to the business. So, okay, yes. Okay, excellent. Healing Earth, Healing Beauty, peace, peace, peace. Peace to you as well. Beautiful song. Yep, definitely. Fire. Yep. All right. So let's, all right, see what. Just wanted to know if you could actually see the stream because YouTube took the stream down. They actually took it down, and I don't know if you saw that it got taken down, Lowell. But has it been on all this time on your side, Lowell? The stream, or did it go down at any point on your side? Just let me know, Lowell. Okay, so we're gonna stop sharing that, and then let's get into this Botswana vibes. You said yes, so yes, it was taken down, and now you can see it back up. I see it back up. I had log off once, but I did that on my own. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know what happened, y'all. I don't know. So anyway, let's get started with Botswana. So the reason why I want to talk about Botswana today is because as I talk about a lot of African countries, and I start looking into African countries and development, every time I'm looking into development, there are a few countries that you typically will see. You will see um, Rwanda, you will see Mauritius, you will see Botswana, and then you'll see the giants of Africa, like a South Africa, in terms of economy, in Nigeria. But when they talk about like lack of corruption and development, Botswana is always mentioned, and it's a place that I've never been. However, I've been invited to come and do business. So about a year ago, I decided to do some research on Botswana, and what I found was very fascinating. And I just shook my head as to like, why is this country not being talked about? Why the developments of the country not being talked about? It has a remarkable growth story in terms of the GDP and the average income for its citizens. It's quite incredible. Its first president was somebody who definitely was a responsible man, had a vision, and much like Lee Kuan Yew, took the country from 0 to 100 in a short amount of time. And his story is not being told. And many of you have never heard of his name. And we're going to fix that today. And many of you don't even think about Botswana when you think about Africa, right? When most people think about Africa, they think about Ghana, they think maybe Nigeria, they might think Kenya, but they don't think Botswana. And I'm very clear that a lot of what we're exposed to is meaningless information. Reason why I'm saying that is because I stumbled on Rwanda in 2017. Nobody I knew was pushing Rwanda. Nobody was talking about the developments in Rwanda. And when we heard about Rwanda, we would always think about the genocide that happened there, the tragedy that happened there, like in 1994 or 98. I don't remember the year. I think it was 94. But um, 30 years later, Rwanda did a whole transformation, but we weren't aware of it. A lot of us weren't aware of it. And I'm talking about people who love Africa. This is not a conversation for people who are allergic to Africa. This is for the actual people who are card carrying lovers of Africa, right? And want to see Africa grow. But a lot of us were not aware of what was happening in Rwanda. A lot of us are not aware of what's happening in other countries that are not the big name brand countries of Africa. And so what we want to do is we want to be careful that we are not being cajoled by name brand anything in any way, because what it does, it gets you to focus on, it's just like music. If you only focus on music that of artists that are signed to major record labels, you're missing out on a lot of great music, because the major record labels have the marketing money. So that's why you know about these artists, but they're not pushing Rasta Funk. They're not pushing Bamboo Station. They're not pushing Ross Batch. They're not pushing Midnight. They're not pushing Rima. They're not pushing Desiree. They're not pushing Kenya Eugene. They're not pushing all of these like great, really once in a generation artists that you're just not hearing about. And so I liken that also to African countries, that we're being pushed stories of certain African countries. And I'm talking about not just the mainstream, but those of us who are lovers of Africa, we tend to push the same countries. When people go to Africa for the first time, many want to go to Ghana for the first time. And I'm trying to figure out why, because I'm from Ghana, right? But in my travels, I have to be honest, like Ghana is not the country I'd be pushing for people's like travels to Africa. Then Ghana has a lot of work to do. So and people are seeing it, like people are traveling, they're going to different places, seeing that they can do business better, they can do, you know, the government is working a lot better, the situations on the ground is a lot more amenable to people coming to do business and set up shop, and Africans from the diaspora coming and, you know, feeling comfortable. I don't think Ghana is the best country for that. There's a lot of infrastructural issues. Um, you know, there's waste management issues in the capital city and throughout Ghana. And this is not for me to disparage the country I was born in, but I'm a Pan-Africanist. I don't play favorites. I don't care if I was born there, if I wasn't born. I don't play favorites. I just call it as I see it. And then you've got countries like Botswana with these hidden stories of success that's not being promoted. It's not being marketed to people worldwide, the story of Botswana. And after you see the story of Botswana today, you'd be like, damn, why we didn't know about this? Why we didn't know about their first president? Why we didn't know about how they took the country from 0 to 130 years? Like it's real. It's a really, 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 really important story. And so it's my pleasure to share this information with you. All right. Folks, she says Ghanaians are the kindest people. Yeah, Ghanaians can be very kind. Most Africans are very kind. Folks that have never been to Africa tend to go to places where the other Black diasporas go. Yeah. So it becomes like a pylon thing where everyone's going to Ghana, year of return. So it's a marketing thing, but it may not be like it's definitely not the only country that people should go to. And we get to find out that Ghanaians are moving to places like Rwanda to be able to actually do business. Maha Dachi loved learning about Botswana. Yeah, big up Maha. You know what I'm saying? And then she says there's a door of no return. They have a couple of them. They have a door of no return in Senegal as well. A couple other places. It's not just Ghana. And for safety and security. Yeah. So let's look at modern day Botswana, what it looks like. Give you a couple of videos, a couple of examples of modern day Botswana, what people are saying, living there in 2024, and what it looks like, right? I'm gonna show you probably 3 videos of modern day. And what I'd like to do is give a cross section of, you know, different people's perspectives. And as always, this drip that I'm wearing, you know, people ask me, the top is Adenoho wear. It's purple and gold. The arms are like that too. It's done very nicely. I think I got this for like $70, and it's like it goes all the way down to my knees. So it's like a long, flowing top. You know what I'm saying? And it's gold and purple, and it's beautiful. And it's done by Adenoho wear. You see how it goes all the way down like that? Yeah. So it's Adenoho wear, and yeah, and with Adenoho wear, you all can contact him. And with that contact, you all can purchase this too. You can purchase it for your family. You can purchase it for your friends. And the brother's straight out of Ghana, you know? So holla at him if you feel so inclined. Sorry, just getting the camera back because I had to move it to show y'all what I was dealing with, you know, in terms of the clothing. So let's get into this conversation about Botswana without any further ado. All right. I just want to get situated. All right. I think that you all can hear me. Y'all can hear me okay? Let me make sure my audio's on. Okay, yeah, it's good. All right, let's get into this first video on Botswana. And for the people tuned in, big up to everyone tuned in, you know? So let's get into this video here. And then we'll get into a couple other videos. All right. He calls Botswana the most perfect country. Okay. This is a Nigerian YouTuber named Tayo Aina. Feel free to subscribe to him. He has great content. And he says, in his opinion, from all the travels that he's done all around Africa, that Botswana is the most perfect country in Africa. And if someone is saying that who was born in Africa and travels all around Africa, we might want to pay attention to why he's saying it. So let's try to figure out why he's saying it. So I'm gonna play this and hope y'all enjoy.
Guys, it's so freaking beautiful. This is Botswana.
In June, the third largest diamond in the world was found in Botswana.
Spoiler alert, diamonds are behind all of this.
One of the most beautiful countries in Africa, and over the next 7 days, I'm going to be exploring it. So little is known about Botswana, the landlocked country in the center of Southern Africa.
Top blue represents the sky, bottom blue water, white and the black stripes touch each other for racial harmony.
I've been to the southern part of Africa on multiple occasions, but Botswana was never on my mind as a place to visit until now. Before arriving here, I'd heard it's home to the largest salt pan in the world, which is unlike anything I've ever seen anywhere before. Since I had 10 days, I came up with a plan to spend a day each at different interesting parts of the country and finally end up at the largest salt pan in the world. I had very limited resources and I wanted to make this trip as cheap as possible, so I set a budget of $1,000, which I was going to make sure not to go over. I landed in the capital city of Gaborone, and on arrival, the first thing I noticed was how similar it was to other South African capitals like Windhoek in Namibia and Cape Town in South Africa. There was this general feeling of calmness, and everybody took their time to go about their daily activities. The first place I stayed was an Airbnb apartment owned by a very amazing Botswana woman. It was a 2-bedroom apartment and it cost $90 per night.
This is one of the cheapest places you can get if you're coming to Botswana. Let me show you guys what it looks like. This is the kitchen. Check out how huge it is. And on this side is the sitting room area. And this spot also has 2 rooms. This is the bedroom. See how huge it is. And I got this place for 1,100 pull-up. Whenever I come to a new country, I love to feel like I'm living in the country. So that's why I got this place, which is like 3 minutes away from the city center. If you ever want to come down to Botswana, click the link in the description to book this apartment. All the details are there.
Rubbish. Traveling to a new country for me has gradually become a boring activity because I hardly know anyone, and getting around isn't something I really look forward to. This usually discourages me from exploring a country, or if I do explore, I just go to the basic places I'd seen online and then I leave. So my next task was to make some new friends. I put up a post on my Instagram saying I was around and would love to meet up with some new people in the city of Gaborone. After some hours, I got 1 or 2 responses from the people here, but unfortunately, they were currently not in the country at the moment. Eventually, as it seemed my plan wasn't working, I decided to go grab food at a restaurant in town. While I was there, the great part about traveling with friends for me is how different your experience becomes. And on this day, we decided to go hiking to one of the highest points in Gaborone.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome.
It's good. How are you? Good morning. How are you?
I have to climb all the way from where we currently are, all the way up this hill right here.
This is one of the most popular morning activities to do here and a great way for me to stay healthy even though I was on the road.
It's not easy. My knees are starting to feel it gradually.
Hey, are we there yet?
We're here now.
Woo! Finally.
Damn, this is so beautiful. Let's check out the view.
Woo! Top of the hill! We made it!
Tell me about this spot. What happens here?
Every weekend, mostly Saturday and Sundays, people come up the hill.
Yeah.
This is like our wellness center where you get fresh air and yeah, good vibrations really.
Belle and her friends took me to a local spot in town called Mokolodi. It's one of the best places to grab a meal while being in close proximity with animals.
What's up, bro? One of the cool parts about this spot is that they have giraffes. So it's a really cool place to come to if you want to have a really nice meal on probably a weekend. So I'm just about to go and order my food now.
So I'm gonna forward some of this
after that very long hike.
This is mostly like, you know, socializing, listening to the facts.
That you had to bring me here.
The plus of it is that you get to see animals as you eat.
What kind of animals do you see?
Zebra, antelope, warthogs.
And you were saying something about the zebras being related to your country.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Mokolodi, you all should come here.
Even though my plan was to get to the largest salt pan in the world, I wanted to know more about the country.
It's a beautiful place. I think one thing I personally love about being in Botswana and being around Botswana, they love simplicity.
the simplest things will make them have a good time.
They also make sure the law treats you well. A country that thinks about its citizens in that way is a good country. And your investment is secure because the banking system is secure. You can actually swipe close to $35,000 with a banking card when you're outside the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So far as you are paying your tax properly, you are doing the things that the government abide, you are fine. No one is going to stress you.
It's been 56 years since Botswana gained its independence and 28 years since the Southern African nation established its
Botswana has come a long way since its independence and has even gained international recognition as a peaceful and increasingly prosperous democratic state. The economy has grown rapidly since the mid-1960s, and its gross domestic product per capita has increased more than 100-fold. One of the most interesting things about Botswana's growth has been its discovery of diamonds.
I can tell you the secret behind that. Spoiler alert, diamonds are behind all of this.
Well, I can just say that I'm a product of the Botswana diamonds. And I was born in a government hospital. I went to a government school. I was funded to go to university by the government, and I work for the government.
People here are given free education from primary school, secondary school, and tertiary school. If the course that you want to study isn't offered in the country, they actually sponsor you to go outside. They actually give you an allowance every single month that you're getting paid to go to school.
In Botswana, diamonds are the major economic resource and have been exploited on a large scale since 1970. They are mined from one of the world's largest diamond mines at Ofori-Atta, which is an area in Botswana. The only other mines in the world bigger than this are found in Russia. Botswana is also home to one of the world's largest and most sophisticated diamond sorting and valuing facility plants ever built, and is located in Gaborone.
This is the most expensive rock I've ever held.
This country used to be one of the poorest and least developed states in the world, but it has managed to transform itself into one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
So as you can see, they actually have what you call diamond manufacturing. So the mines are there, but they actually process the diamonds in the country as well, which is going to get you a much better price in the world market instead of just selling it as a raw material than having other people refine the diamonds. So it looks like Botswana actually has a refining facility for diamonds, which is very necessary if you're going to have economic growth.
With most of its GDP coming in from exports of its diamonds. While I was here in Gaborone, the Botswana Tourism Board reached out to me and offered to take me and my friends around some of the most historical parts of the city.
We say Botswana because that is the plural of the citizens of this country. One citizen, we change the prefix to Mo, M-O, Mo, Botswana. You don't say Botswanian or Botswanan. It's Botswana and Botswana.
I'm the same Botswanian.
It's very difficult, yeah. It's a cultural thing, isn't it?
So we're going this direction. This place is called the new main mall.
In this building here, apparently was the very first cinema in Botswana.
Oh, really?
So, if you know of a movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Yeah.
It was first shown in this building here.
Oh, wow.
In the was it early 90s, I believe.
I think one of the great parts about where we currently are is kind of like the shopping center. It's called the New Mall, and this is where most of the shopping happens. If you want to buy anything that is cultural in Botswana, this is where you come to. And then there's this broad walk where you can walk all the way to the other side.
Mama, what size are you?
50.
What size are you, Joe? I said you should buy these, and when you wear them.
Why are you trying to force me to wear something I don't want to wear?
Tayo, I said buy
This
these.
is molestation.
I said buy these, and when you're gone, remember me with these.
They're trying to force me to wear one of these and to buy it.
Guys, what do you think about this?
They don't like it.
What's it?
So this is a Mopane work.
Crunchy and slightly salty.
Not bad. It's like a fish.
It's just at the mall. We're going to go a little further.
This area used to be where Botswana started from, and there's a lot of artifacts here that give us more interpretation and more records of the history of Botswana. So let's go inside and see what we can learn. Guys, check this out. There's a picture of Davido right here, and then there's also a picture of Steve Harvey. This place is really dope. So many artworks on the walls. Oh, check this one out. This is so cool. What's this place? This place where? This one here?
So behind us here,
Yeah.
first post office in
Okay.
Gaborone.
Okay.
It was right adjacent to the first prison.
That was the first
Botswana is one of the
post
few
office.
countries in Africa that weren't actually colonized. So we were protected, we were a protectorate, and that
So
you're recognized in
we're
our
going to get
history.
into a little bit of
Those are
history of
It's like some
Botswana.
scary movie. Crazy.
While on this tour, we took a trip to the monument of the Three Dekosi.
These are three chiefs that are known in our history or recognized in our history in Botswana for getting on a ship during the colonial times and going to the British monarchy seeking protection. Botswana is one of the few countries in Africa that weren't actually colonized. So we were protected, we were a protectorate, and that happened as a result of these three chiefs here negotiating for that.
That's interesting.
After exploring most of the city, it was time to head outside Gaborone to experience the largest salt pan in the world. This was by far one of the most beautiful places in Botswana, and before now, I never knew it existed. It's called Raizana Pans, and it covers an area of 30,000 kilometers.
Guys, it's so freaking beautiful. I had to take a blanket because my whole body was getting cold. It's so cold here, man. 7 hours plus from Gaborone to get here.
This pan is surrounded by grasslands, and during the rainy season, it gets filled up with water that looks like milk due to the large alkaline content of the soil. There has been no rain for a while, so when we arrived, it was very dry.
It's a big ass stone. How did it get here? There's a whole lot of them. Yeah. The water is cold.
It's a very unique destination and looks like a great place to go camping. Across all my travels, I've never seen anything like this anywhere in the world, and it was truly a sight to behold.
Yeah, that's crazy.
After a long drive, we found this awesome spot right here where we came to have lunch, and it's this beautiful hotel here. It's really cool. You can see a lot of greenery. It has this kind of like African type village vibe. So I'm going to be trying out crocodile meat here for the first time. Guys, check out this pool. It looks really dope. Today has been very stressful. We drove 7 hours, so this will be a good way to relax after coming out from the pond. How does it feel, bro?
This water is cold. Actually, very, very, very cold.
That's just in at a resort.
They have trucks that can take you on safari game drives.
Let's go towards the end. Oh, man,
It's like normal beef, though. It's yummy, actually. I love it.
Visiting Botswana really changed my mind about what this beautiful African country had to offer, as I never really expected to leave feeling so mind-blown. The country had so much to give, and I felt at home while I was here. I did a lot, but there was still so much to do, like visiting the Okavango Delta and Kasane, so I'm definitely coming back soon. One of the reasons I love traveling is that it helps shape your perception of the world, and I thoroughly enjoyed my stay in Botswana. I can say Botswanans are some of the most hospitable people I have ever met in any African country. As I always say, the most important part about travel for me isn't just the location, but the amazing people you get to meet, and I did meet many in this beautiful country. Strangers are just friends that you haven't met yet. So will I recommend traveling to Botswana? 100%. It's a very serene and calming environment with its own special version of activities and experiences that I believe everyone in the world should try out.
I would always encourage people to visit. It's got beautiful sceneries. The people are interesting. The women are very interesting.
The woman.
If you're a male, come. No, it's a beautiful place. I personally love it. That's why I'm still here.
I don't know where to start, bro. There's a lot that made me say this place is a place to, actually have a family and relax. Even if I'm traveling all over the world, I'll still come back here, have my house somewhere, and chill.
Hope you guys enjoyed this video.
All right, and so that's his perspective. I'm gonna show you all a 4K drone view of the capital city, so you all can see what the capital city looks like and see what the vibes is on that. And so, yeah, this is Botswana, y'all. Big up Troy Burnett. Big up Troy Burnett. Yeah, man. Love for you to call in sometime and so we can check in to see the beautiful work that you're doing. I know you're doing a lot of work in terms of homesteading, and people would love to get that information in terms of what you do. So one of these days, man, feel free to call in. Thursdays would be good, and we can chop it up and people can find out about the beautiful work that you're doing, because I know you're doing a lot of hands-on work with the land. I believe you're in Texas. So I think a lot of people could get a lot of information and education and inspiration from what you're doing with your life. So, feel free to just tap in whenever you're ready, bro. So let's check out the drone view of the capital city. It's called Gaborone. And so let's look at it. And these, this is 2023. I sped it up a little bit. Oh, sorry, the sound was out. So that was the video there. And what we're seeing with Botswana is that Botswana seems to be less green than, let's say, Rwanda. Rwanda seems to be more green, and it's more hilly, and it seems like Botswana is a little bit more flat in nature. So that gives you a little view of what's going on in terms of the visuals of the capital city. You always want to see what the capital city looks like to get a sense of development level of the country. And so what I want to do now is I want to show you what's happening in terms of investments towards making a certain section of Botswana a Silicon Valley, which is very important in terms of technological advancement. So I'm going to show you all that as well. And then we're going to get into some of the history of Botswana, and for you all to understand the gravity of the situation, how they made and transformed the country. And this is what the conversation is really about. Yeah, big up Montego. More peace, love, and light. Yeah, man, bless up to you as well. I think that's Jason. Bless up, Jason. The aeronautical engineer. So I got my tongue tied a little bit, but you know, the man is an engineer for for like an aviation engineer. Came in one of the first lives, and those of y'all who tuned in would have enjoyed the conversation that we had. And I'm still, by the way, Jason, I'm still working on getting some phone numbers for you for the people at Air Rwanda to look at the plane parts and all that, so we can start talking about the manufacturing and how we can start making these plane parts to feed the block. So what I want to do now is I want to show you all what they're calling Silicon Valley of Africa. So this is something that they've planned out in Botswana. Like I said, these things don't happen by accident. They take planning from real people with real ideas and real execution. So let's look at Silicon Valley plans for Botswana. You understand? Hold on. Yeah, Lowell's bigging you up. So this is a cross-platform. That's why I put these messages here, because Lowell's on YouTube. Well, Johnson is on Facebook. So he's not going to see Lowell's messages unless I put them on the screen. So I have no problem doing that. And he says, I give thanks for your assistance in uplifting us all. No problem. Iron sharpen iron, you know? And OG engineer in the house. Exactly. Yeah. Big up. You're well appreciated, Jason. And let's muscle up and get into this particular video. And just let y'all know that all of this stuff is happening right under our nose, you know? This is happening while we're around, you know, listening to all different types of conversations, but development is happening, y'all. Let me speed this up a little bit. So I hope y'all are enjoying Botswana, a much ignored country in Africa. But when we watch some of these videos I'm going to show you, it does not need to be ignored. It's a great success story.
Silicon Valley is a region in San Francisco, California, and is home to the biggest companies in the world that create most of the products and services we use today.
iPhone, Meta,
Microsoft,
Silicon Valley.
It's the world center for innovation and also home to Apple's $5 billion park.
Apple Park has been built to reflect Apple's value.
While on my trip to Botswana, I found a similar tech valley that was being built for Africa. This is Botswana's $60 million innovation hub, and it has one of the most fascinating building designs I've ever seen anywhere in the world. When I first saw it, I was wondering if it was a spaceship that landed in the middle of the desert because of how it looked, and that got me really intrigued that I decided to find out what really goes on inside this building.
This is the Science and Technology Park.
Made in Botswana.
It's rugged, it's waterproof, nothing else can add to it.
That's what I'm talking about.
What's Botswana Innovation Hub?
Botswana Digital and Innovation Hub is a national innovation agency established by government to facilitate innovation in Botswana. We also work with other groups such as the Academia, the Research Institute, to support our startups for development of innovative solutions or technologies.
Why was it important to set this up?
This park actually was set up as a platform or catalyst for business growth, for supporting innovation activities, basically to bring together all innovators within the ecosystem so that they can collaborate and work together for development of new products and services.
When you say bring together people in the ecosystem, are you just talking about people in Botswana, or is it for the whole of Africa?
It's actually for the whole of Africa. Obviously, we'll start with Botswana, and once they've come up with the products and services, then they can always collaborate with other innovators within Africa as well as the global community as well.
Excellent. Just coming in here, I noticed the building looks like a spaceship. And I also heard that the building is similar to what they have in Silicon Valley. Was that intentional?
Yes, this was actually intentional. If you look at it very closely, it somehow resembles the Okavango Delta, which is one of the prominent sites here in Botswana. So yes, in terms of the design, it was very deliberate to bring together the innovative community, the ecosystem, just like the Silicon Valley, for development of unique product and activities.
This building is so remarkable in its design as the roof has large overhangs to passively shade the building and protect it from the heat of the desert. Its color and design were also inspired by the sand dunes of Botswana, which makes it blend in perfectly with its environment.
This is a 57-hectare plot. In the middle is actually what we call the Icon building. This is the building that was constructed by BDIH. This is available to all startups as well as well-established tech companies. Around the Icon building, we have got about 42 plots that are available to investors, obviously those that are in the tech and innovation space. So they are welcome to come and set up here. We want really to create a community of innovators where there can be collaboration, where all these players can actually come together to basically...
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the key to the development of Africa, is the focus on innovation and having spaces where innovators can go and collaborate from all over the continent. And I'd like to just say big up to Botswana for putting something like this together and having the foresight.
They develop solutions for Botswana as well as for Africa.
Botswana has managed to push aside Morocco and South Africa and lead Africa in the investments list.
Where is this place that we're going here?
This is the Science and Technology Park for Botswana.
These are like offices in front.
Yes, these are offices, but these are really for our startups. We are just waiting for the other section of the building to be completed, and then we'll migrate all these offices there. This space then will be available for all our startups. We'll see how we finish it so that it can be very conducive and welcoming to those that will want to come and sit here. Again, we'll provide amenities, broadband, so that they are able to come up with those products and services. We've got several startups that we are supporting, obviously in different sectors. We bring them all here. We provide them with free internet. We provide them with amenities so that they can develop those ideas into something that is tangible, a prototype, if you want to say.
While I was here, I also met some of the startups to see what they were up to.
We are an original equipment manufacturer, meaning that we get components and we assemble them. And we do consumer electronics, meaning that anything that has a motherboard, we actually assemble. We are not only...
She said, anything that has a motherboard, we assemble. Go on and talk.
Just an aspiring Pan-African country, but we've been leading, especially in state-of-art consumer electronics. So,
what has it been like building your business in Botswana?
We try to do like software solutions that are business to customer, and we found that they don't really pick up because there are not a lot of people, like you say. So we just focus mainly on business to business type of solutions. So
you never know, Roots man have his credentials. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, Rasta man, move forward.
To survive.
Is this mainly like funded by the government or is it a private-public partnership?
We are mainly funded by the government as a national innovation agency, but we also work with the private sector and as well as United Nations through UNDP for capacity building. But mainly we are funded by government as well as assisted by our regional partners.
One of the things I'm loving about Botswana is the direction it's taken by moving the economy from being solely focused on mining its minerals to building a country that unlocks the potential of its people through technology.
We have the advantage of having a very youthful population, and we want to turn this into an opportunity for us, not just for market, but for retooling, skilling, digitalization.
It has been dependent on its diamonds for so long, with over 50% of its GDP coming from its mineral resources. This has led to a problem of overdependency because the minerals can one day run out.
Absolutely.
How do you feel like innovation and technology will change the face of Botswana?
Yes, you see, Botswana has been trying to diversify the economy from being mineral-led to knowledge-based economy. And I believe that innovation and technology can actually help the country to transform the economy into a knowledge-based economy. I mean, in terms of innovative products and services that come from both the private sector as well as our innovators, this is what we want to see driving Botswana's economy going forward. And I think this is the major role that technology and innovation can actually play in that regard.
Excellent.
How many people do you have here working?
Roughly 100.
100 people.
Roughly
Right now,
100,
what production is going on?
Yes, she is holding one of our greatest devices. It's called the TH02. This is what the government has trusted us with the ongoing rollout of laptops across all the secondary and primary schools. She's trying to check if the motherboard is functional. So that's what she's doing. We manufacture phones that are Android powered. So which means that this is the station where they do all the checkups and want to see if the softwares are synchronic to the device. So we have two mobile phones, lower end and high end. Lower end is our Ditec Blade and the high end is our Ditec XP.
So never say that we're not making phones in Africa. You've seen video evidence of it. Like I said, there's a lot of things happening in Africa that is under people's radar. And the point, of me putting this type of show together is to make y'all know that like there's things happening on the continent, because I see it when I'm there, and you just got to get in where you fit in and understand that, again, investing in Africa is like investing in Amazon in the year 2000. It is a early stage startup with a lot of growth potential. So that's where you want to be, and that's where you want to find yourself. So imagine being involved in a manufacturing operation like this. This is what it's all about.
This is our high-end cell phone. That's like 48 megapixels and it's 64 GB. So a quick sample that's already active as this one. So you can just flip through and use it.
Wow. Made in Botswana.
Made in Botswana, made in Africa.
What's the plan to scale going forward?
So we're starting right here at home, addressing the problems at home first, and then we're going to try and scale them out to other African countries that are experiencing the same sort of issues. So we plan to, develop the solution, get it up and running in Botswana, and then we can talk to other countries, show them what we've done here, and hopefully they'll be able to adopt the same kind of systems, and we'll build it for them.
Right here we have the TH02. This is currently ongoing with Botswana government, but then we decided we shouldn't only cater for the government. We need to find a way to cater for private schools. So this is what we came up with. It's rugged, it's waterproof, it's dust-proof, and this is...
So I just want to show you how forward-thinking the government is. The government has contracted a local manufacturing, an African manufacturing company of technology to make computers and phones for the government offices and the government employees. So what you've done is you've already given them a source of stable income where they can grow. This is exactly what governments have to do. These African governments, I know a few African governments that every year they spend tens of millions of dollars on vehicles, government fleet of vehicles, and they're getting most of their vehicles from Japan, where you've got some fledgling car manufacturing companies, notably in Ghana with Kantanka, in Nigeria with a company called, I think it's Inosun or something like that. Why isn't the Nigerian government only driving those cars? Why isn't the Ghanaian government only driving Kantankas? See, it's all about leadership and what leadership tries to do in terms of empowering its local entrepreneurs, because guess what? The local entrepreneurs are going to hire the local people. Look at this manufacturing plant. It's nothing but Botswana's work, not Botswanans being trained into work there because they have a great customer. That customer is the government who's paying them to make these types of products that the government needs. Instead of importing it from Japan or China or what have you, you can actually have them made in your country. You pay the people, the company, and you reward the entrepreneurs for the work that they're doing, and they're able to pay the employees for the work that they're doing. And now you have a tax base that's based on employment rather than a tax base that's based on import duties. You see the difference?
Solely designed for kids, because you know how kids can actually drop it from this height. Nothing actually happens to it, So yeah.
You open it back again, let me see.
Yeah.
Oh,
nothing
wow.
happens, and nothing happens to the screen as well. So yeah, that's the beauty of it. That's why
It's durable.
Laptop.
It's durable.
This is a station where we put our television after assembly. This is where testing goes on. We need to check like its compatibility in terms of Android. This is the station where we do our checkups.
Now you see something like this, right? And this is for...
Production was done on...
All right. For those people who have, let's say, teenagers in the United States, and you're looking at getting your kids out of the United States, at least for the summer. So what you'd want to do is rent an Airbnb in a place like Botswana for at least a month and you have your children, high school age children if they are, intern at this place and learn manufacturing in Africa. Do you understand what type of heads up you'd be giving your children by allowing them to be in liberated space, to be in Africa, and to be amongst fellow engineers and people who are manufacturing? And you have your children doing an internship. I mean, if I had any children around, I'd say 14, 15, 16, 17, that's what I would do. I would have them, I would go over to Africa for a couple months if I'm living in the States or the Caribbean, and again, this is all about being able to move. And that's why yesterday I shared with you all the links to get remote jobs, right? And if you missed it, you can go to my live from yesterday. It's archived on Twitter, it's archived on YouTube and Facebook. I went over the different places you can go to get remote jobs, even places that have listings for teaching English as a second language. So, you have them for the summer work. You can actually literally reach this guy. He has a Twitter, he has a YouTube. You can inbox, ask for this sister's contact. Say that you got some children you'd like to intern there for free. Bring them there, and you'd be giving them a whole life experience that would be completely different than what they'll be doing in America. And they would be engaged with African manufacturing and be making friends who are engaged in African manufacturing. So now you're curating your children's friendships to more productive people, and in a country that's about that business. So these are just the ideas that I'm throwing forth to people. When you go to Africa, you're not going to Africa. I know everyone wants to touch their roots and get back to understanding historical sites, but you can't drive by looking at the rear view mirror, right? You have to drive by looking frontwards and looking ahead of you. And so while you are looking at the rear view mirror by looking at, retracing your history and all of that, which is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but the world is built on the future. So you need to be linking up with these types of people, and the brother, the dreadlock brother who's doing business at this particular site. Trust me, they'll be happy to see you and they'll greet you with open arms, and you will now be changing the trajectory of your children's lives. Okay, so let me forward this.
On the Diatech television. It's a very small TV, but we wish to also expand to even bigger inches and have our TV smart and Android powered. So very soon we'll have production for that one. This is our fridge. I don't know what to call it, but this is a spectacular product that we have. It's very beautiful, and some people will say it's a snag. It's not a snag, it's a Diatech. It has similar features, yes. So this is
for us?
Yeah, you can have drinks. You can have drinks.
Oh, wow.
So these are refrigerators that are manufactured.
999. It's a very beautiful fridge.
In Botswana. Made in Botswana, Serious people.
Would you say it's possible for a Nigerian company to come here and establish themselves?
Yes, it's possible. Actually, we have had a number of inquiries from startups from Nigeria who just wanted to see what we are doing here in Botswana, some of them for collaboration. So they are most welcome, including other innovators from Africa as well, from other parts of Africa.
What's this called?
Yeah, this one is called an amenity garden. We actually have two of them. There's this one and there's another one that side. This space is also available for functions and other activities that we want to do within there. But remember, the objective is networking as well as collaboration. So we don't want them to be confined into their offices. You can just take a walk, come up here, sit where think and come up with those ideas.
What are the kind of investors you're looking at? There's small scale startups, there's bigger startups. So who are the kind of people that you're looking to attract?
Really, we are open to all our investors as long as you are in the technology and innovation space. If your technology or solution is one that will really disrupt the way in which we work, you are most welcome here. Even multinationals, big companies, they are also welcome to come and invest within the park.
How much does it take to get a piece of land here?
Like I said, there are many plots around here. It will depend on the plot size that you want. Most of them are going for market rate, but we also have an industrial side where the rates are actually far lower. This will be about $30 or so per square meter, yes.
So where do you see technology in
using the available technologies, whether developed here or outside the country? Because remember, we've said this is one vehicle that can actually transform our economy from being mineral to knowledge-based.
How long ago this project started, and when do you see it being fully completed?
BDH in 2010, but it started being operational in 2012. And then we started building this building in 2014. The intention was to finish within 2 years, which was 2016. We did have some challenges, structural challenges with the building. It's almost complete. About 75% of the structure is complete. We've got only one section that remains undone. We believe that by the end of this year, we should have the whole building completed.
When I came here, I heard there are just 2.5 million people in Botswana. Don't you feel like the market is too small?
Yes, indeed, the market is small. But what we always say to our innovators is that start here, build up here, and then you can now reach out to the whole of Africa.
I would never say in business it's easy, but you always strive and persevere. And for us being a local manufacturer, we wanted to be a trendsetter. We wanted to be the first in the manufacturing industry, especially when it comes to electronics. By the grace of God, we were able to cap some challenges. We were able to overcome them. So it's never really easy in business, but we've come a long way.
How easy is it to get access here to come and start up your company?
It's very easy. We can actually facilitate your coming in here, including visas, as well as you establishing your own company here. By the way, where we are also located is it's a special economic zone. So all companies that are set up here, they've got access to tax incentives as well as labor dispensation. This is something that we can also facilitate as BDIH on your behalf. So it's relatively easy for you to come and set up here.
How much does it cost to set up a company in Botswana?
It's about $35 to register a company here in Botswana. Then obviously, then it will depend into the sector in which you want to operate. Obviously, there will be some capital that you need in order to start operating.
Do you think technology is the key to changing Africa? And how do you think it can change Africa?
Indeed, technology can actually bring quite a significant change in Africa. We are used to doing our things our own way, and you have seen that in most cases it's not an efficient way of doing things. And I want to believe that technology, innovation can actually help us as Africa to propel our economies forward so that we are able to compete with the rest of the world. So I believe technology is the way forward for us as Africa.
What's your advice to a lot of young people across Africa who are interested in technology?
My advice is that there are many opportunities that are available to our young people. They just need to sit down, reflect on what they want to do, and then approach entities that can actually assist them, not only to set up, but also to mentor them as they develop their product and services. There's a huge market in Africa. There's appetite for innovative product and services. They just need to identify a niche market and then come up with a product or a solution for that particular market, and they will be able to be successful. Botswana Digital and Innovation Hub is here. It's available to all innovators. Feel free to contact us, to engage us, and we'll facilitate those engagements so that that product or that service that you have developed out there can actually come and benefit us here in Botswana, as well as Africa as a whole.
You'll see the links in the description below, so just check it out if you want to contact them.
I believe Africa is the next big growth market in the world, and it's great to see countries like Botswana building themselves a seat at that table. If our increasingly mobile phone-enabled population across Africa can direct more focus on technological production instead of consumption, it will lead to more digital jobs for us and will allow us to compete on a global scale. Africa is a continent of innovation and creativity, and I'm glad I'm playing a part in this by sharing the story. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
So, of course,
how impressive is the wolf smacking the nugget?
I took it upon myself to go to the website of the company Ditech just now, because if they're truly making phones and they let's just go through some of the comments. Yeah, I hope that was inspiring. But there's more, because we got to get to the history of Botswana and to show how they got to where they're at, right? Alexis Vido says, thanks for sharing, no problem. Kasaku. Yep. And Healing Beauty says, this is inspiring, definitely. Emojis. Kasaku says, true. Yeah, seems like a great place to be raised. Yep. Raising your kids in a country that creates. That's very important. It's like, here's the thing, like, I'm getting contacts from people. People are fed up. There's a lot of people getting very serious about these things that we're talking about. And a lot of people seeing that they're being really taken advantage of in America in terms of working so hard for very little. So a lot of people are looking for their exits, and they're looking for smart ways to do it. And that's what the show is about, is to show you the alternatives and to see how real they are, you know? And that it's not far-fetched. for you to actually locate yourself in any of these places and make things happen. I know that right now I'm definitely going to take a trip to Botswana, and I'll be going to that innovation center, and I have a conversation for them, because right now I'll just share with you all in terms of giving you a window to my life. I was just called. What's today? Wednesday? I think it was Sunday morning, or it might have been Friday. I don't remember. My good friend Ken Eccles, the good brother Ken Eccles, who's one of the great minds of our time in terms of engineering. He makes 3D printers. Like, he actually makes 3D printers. We're talking about putting together a manufacturing facility. So I know what the budget is to get the equipment. I've been tasked with getting the equipment. Ken will be masterminding everything. And we're just looking for a staging area. We're going to start with making car parts and airplane parts. And, I'm talking to my good brother Lowell about finding a place that maybe he can supervise, because he has a mechanic shop. And we're looking at transitioning over to start making things in terms of car parts, airplane parts, all these types of things that are actually very needed, not just in America, but in Africa. So I think that I have a value proposition for these people in Botswana, to see if we can put up a manufacturing facility there for car parts and airplane parts. I love what the country is doing, and Lowell, feel free to call in if you want. We can kind of chop it up so people can know what we're really talking about and what we're doing, like what we're going to be planning to do in terms of this manufacturing facility. And it'll be an investment opportunity for those who are interested. People ask me all the time if they can invest in what I'm doing. And I think that this manufacturing piece is so important that I am going to be making that open for investments. Probably going to start with $20,000 in terms of what we need to get equipment and to get a space for the first couple months of that space. And so there'll be a $20,000 pool for people to invest. So you can invest $1,000, $2,000, what have you. And we're looking to give you returns by the end of the year. But we have a lot of work to do. Ken has put a design together for a block making machine, which is hydraulic. I have about 7 people who want to order block making machines from me, just from what they saw me doing in Gambia with the manufacturing of blocks, with the factory that myself and my good brother Kwame put together. We got equipment from China. And as I told you all, the equipment costs about $20,000 to get the equipment. What's so funny? So the equipment, it makes several hundred blocks per day or 1,000 blocks per day. I forgot what the numbers were. But to buy the equipment to have it shipped over from China was $20,000, right? Of which me and Kwame went 50-50 on. It's nice to have a business partner, right? Who's going to come in with some money. I come in with money, he comes with money. We made it happen, right? Okay. So come to find out that Ken Eccles starts doing some numbers. He starts giving us a design of machines that he can make that will press blocks even better than the block making machine that we got from China. It's a very heavy industrial machine. Like, we go big when we go, you know what I'm saying? But Ken improved on the design. He basically reverse engineered it and simplified it. Send me pictures of the machine. Let me see the specs. He went to his lab and came back with, I got a better design, and it's actually hydraulic, and it uses like 1/10 of the electricity, and it can do this and it can do that, and it can be manual if you don't have electricity. It can be run off of solar. It can be. So Ken did it all together, and it turns out that the equipment that we would need to make the machines won't be more than $20,000. So actually, the cost of one machine is the cost of the equipment to make 1 million machines. You understand where I'm going with this? So what I'm doing right now, shout out to Ken. Some of y'all met him a couple weeks ago when he came on. Healing Beauty says goals. She says at least part of the year. Yeah, yes, sir. She said, I think we may need to do beauty product manufacturing as well. Oh, absolutely. You would do very well. Beauty product manufacturing in Africa, it would do extremely well. Yep, that's crazy. 20K, yeah. So the price of the machine that we bought is the price of equipment to build several machines. Not several, I'm talking about thousands of machines. So that's where I'm focused right now. I had some things to clear up, but I've gotten that out the way. For those who've been asking, there's a lot of people contacting me about herbal results, olive leaf extract. We were sold out of the maximum strength. Well, we just got product made in the factory, thousands of bottles made, and they just got trucked into our shipping facility today. So as of tomorrow, people can get their olive leaf extract maximum strength bottles. I've just been waiting on that before I make any other moves. So now it's been delivered. I'm ready to make other moves. And those moves will be towards getting people who are interested in investing in manufacturing that we're going to be doing with Ken's company, 3D, et cetera, and also 25th Dynasty. That's my company. And that's 25th Dynasty Gambia is the company I have with Brother Kwame in Gambia. So we're gonna put some things together, and those who've contacted me through the show that have wanted to invest, we're gonna put out, a nice proposal for you to show you exactly what we're going to do with this manufacturing equipment. It's going to be 3D printers. It's going to be the equipment that can make 3D printers at scale. And then we're going to be able to make all types of things: airplane parts, car parts, bicycles. We'll be able to make excavators and forklifts, and we'll be able to make anything, y'all. And we're gonna get this equipment, and it's gonna happen. And what I do want to show y'all is, let's look at the website of the company that was just featured. So they're called Ditech Botswana. So this is the website. I'm on there right now. Let's just look through some of their products. I definitely want to get their phone just for spite. So they've got laptops available. Look at that. This is all made in Africa, y'all. They've got LED TVs available. I don't know what the conversion rate is in terms of Botswana money to find out exactly how much this costs, but let's just convert it back to US dollars. So let's just do that real quick, just so we know what these prices are and see how competitive the prices are. So we'll go Botswana dollar. To USD. So it's called the Pula. Okay, so it's the Botswanan Pula. So let's just say, for instance, they have a tablet for 129 Pula. What does that come to in US dollars? That can't be. It can't be. It must be a tablet cover, because what I'm seeing here, it comes out to $9.46. Oh, it's the tablet cover. Okay, that's the cover. That's $9. So an LED TV is 1,200 Pula. So what is 1,200 Pula? $88. So this TV would be 88 bucks. And let's see this laptop here. It's 8,200. And it's out of stock, but I'm doing this so that you all see how real this is. That there are things moving. 8,200 and 255, right? 8,255. It comes out to $605 for this laptop. That's a great price. Manufactured in Africa. And so, I'm at the point now that, now that I know that they exist, anything that I need in terms of that, in terms of the laptop, optical drives, which is, I guess this is a solid state hard drive, I'm going to contact them and start forming a relationship with them, y'all. And getting a phone, getting a laptop. because what I need to have in my house, no matter where I am, is African-made products for spite. You understand? The website is ditech.co.bw. Check it out. I know I will. I'm going to be contacting them, and I want to purchase some of their products. They got headphones. They got, you know what I'm saying? This is a tech company, and they do manufacturing. This is what we've talked about. They've got routers for sale. They've got a freezer for sale. Look at that. You know, so next time I'm in East Africa, you know, I know that if I want to get some of these things on a more permanent level, there's a place where I can buy, and I'll even wait for it to be shipped because I want African-made products, period. This is a refrigerator, 430 watts. Looks pretty nice. So it's 9,600 pula. Let's see what that comes down to. 9,600, $704. That's not a bad price for what this fridge looks like. You know? And it is an energy saving fridge as well. Temperature control, all of that, yo. So let's get down with this African excellence and start being more practical about what we talk about and understand that there are places that exist that are actually doing what needs to be done. The website is ditech, ditec.co.bw for Botswana. I'll put it there in the chat for y'all to check out. Botswana Manufacturing Company. It's our job to know about these people and that they exist. That's our job. And it's our job to multiply their efforts. And then whatever money we get, let's buy their products. Find out how much it costs to ship to the United States. So you got a phone that's an African-made phone. You understand? Like that's the type of time I'm on. Like I'm really on that type of time. So yeah, they have this. They have refrigerators, y'all. You know, they have freezers. They've got memory cards that they make. Right? They've got e-scooters. Yeah, they got some nice stuff up here. They've got keyboards, Bluetooth keyboard. I need a Bluetooth keyboard too. Yeah, they got all of this. They've got, you know, anything in terms of computers and phones and refrigerators and TVs. They've got it. So we know if you don't know anything, you learn today that there's at least one company, and there's much more, but it needs to be stepped up. This needs to be commonplace in Africa. And it's not going to happen with speeches. It's not going to happen with songs. It's not going to happen with marches. It's going to happen with engineers and investment. That's what's going to make this thing happen. So I just put their website up. Okay, that's it there. It's excellent news. Made in Botswana is good for the spirit. Absolutely. And I guess he tagged some people, and Twyla says, need cell phone for this helium service. Yeah, contact them and see how much it costs to ship the phone to the United States. I'm sure they'll be happy. I might contact them and see. I mean, I might start selling their phones on Amazon or something. Who knows? Like, there's all type of business relationships you can form in the export market. And wouldn't it be nice to export goods from Africa and have them compete in America? If you can get a good price. Yeah, I would sell these, you know, I would get 100 of them and sell them on Amazon and see what happens. Sells out, order 100 more. You understand? So yeah, that was very helpful to see that. What I want to do is I want to show you all also now some of the infrastructure projects that are going on in Botswana. And after that, we'll go through some of the history of Botswana to see how it got to where it got to, because that's very important. The how is very important. So I'm going to share 15 most impressive mega projects in Botswana. So let's look at it. See what they're doing in Botswana in terms of infrastructural projects, civil works projects. So let me just change the playback speed. Okay, let's check this out.
Going to be talking about the top 15 ongoing construction.
Start from the beginning.
In today's video, we are going to be talking about the top 15 ongoing construction projects in Botswana. These projects are all important for the country's development, and they will have a significant impact on the lives of Botswana.
Number 15.
Botswana National Stadium Renovation Project. The Botswana National Stadium Renovation Project is a major project that is underway in Botswana. The project involves the renovation of the Botswana National Stadium, which is the country's largest stadium. The project is expected to be completed in 2027, and it will cost an estimated $50 million. The renovation will improve the stadium's facilities and will also make it more accessible to people with disabilities.
Number 14.
Gaborone International Airport Expansion Project. In the capital of Botswana, the Gaborone International Airport Expansion Project is a significant undertaking. The project entails the development of a new runway as well as the expansion of the airport's terminal building. The project will reportedly cost $1 billion and should be finished in 2025. The airport's capacity will increase thanks to the expansion, and it will also become a more desirable location for airlines.
Number 13.
Moropool B Power Station Expansion Project. In Botswana, a significant project called the Moropool B Power Station Expansion Project is currently in progress. One of the biggest power stations in Botswana, the Moropool B Power Station, will be expanded as part of the project. The project will probably cost $500 million and should be finished in 2026. The power station's capacity will be increased by 100 megawatts as a result of the expansion, helping to meet Botswana's expanding demand for electricity.
Number 12.
Celebi Fikwi Integrated Development Project. The Celebi Fikwi Integrated Development Project is a major project that is underway in the Celebi Fikwi district of Botswana. The project involves the rehabilitation of the Celebi Fikwi copper nickel mine, the construction of a new smelter, and the development of a new industrial park. The project is expected to be completed in 2027, and it will cost an estimated $1 billion. The project will help to revitalize the Celebi Fikwi economy and create new jobs.
Number 11.
Suapan Solar Project. A significant project is currently being worked on in the salt flats of Suapan, Botswana. A 500-megawatt solar power plant is being built as part of the project. The project will reportedly cost $1 billion and should be finished in 2028. The solar power plant will lessen Botswana's reliance on fossil fuels while helping to meet the country's rising electricity demand.
Number 10.
So please understand that if you're going to industrialize a country, you're going to deal with manufacturing. You've got to grow your electricity grid and your electricity production and your electricity distribution, because you're going to have factories online, and factories are going to need 24/7 electricity. So they're preparing for all of that. Just like if you know that a city or a town is going to grow, you've got to start, widening the roads, turning 2-lane roads to 4-lane roads, so you have more capacity and that you won't get caught flat-footed. It's called planning, y'all. And you see by these public works projects and these mega projects that they're doing, the first couple projects were energy projects because they are getting the company ready. They're getting the country ready to be a manufacturing-based country based on them exhausting their diamond wealth, because they know it's not going to last forever. You see Saudi Arabia is looking to do the same thing. They know that oil at some point is going to run out and they need to pivot to other industries. And that's what Botswana is doing. But, let's keep going.
Okavango Delta Water Management Project. The Okavango Delta Water Management Project is a major project that is underway in the Okavango Delta of Botswana. The project involves the construction of a series of dams and canals that will be used to manage the flow of water in the delta. The project is expected to be completed in 2030, and it will cost an estimated $2 billion. The project will help to protect the Okavango Delta from flooding and will also help to improve water security in Botswana.
Number 9.
Gaborone Water Treatment Plant Expansion Project. In the capital of Botswana, the Gaborone Water Treatment Plant Expansion Project is a significant undertaking. The project entails expanding the water treatment facility to double its capacity. The project will cost approximately $200 million and is anticipated to be finished in 2025. The development will aid in supplying Gaborone's expanding water demand.
Number 8.
Botswana National Emergency Medical Services Project. The National Emergency Medical Services Project is aimed at improving emergency medical services in Botswana. The project includes the construction of new ambulance stations, the provision of medical equipment and supplies, and the training of emergency medical personnel.
Number 7.
Celebi Fikwi Water Supply Project. The Celebi Fikwi Water Supply Project is a major project that is underway in the Celebi Fikwi district of Botswana. The project involves the construction of a new water supply system for the town of Celebi Fikwi. The project is expected to be completed in 2026, and it will cost an estimated $100 million. The new water supply system will help to improve the quality of water in Celebi Thickley and will also help to reduce water shortages in the town.
Number 6.
Mohembo Bridge Project. A smaller project called the Mohembo Bridge Project is also being carried out in coordination with Zambia. It entails building a fresh bridge across the Chobe River. The bridge will cost about $100 million to build and is anticipated to be finished in 2024. The bridge will make it easier to access the Chobe National Park and increase tourism in the area. One of the most well-liked tourist destinations in Botswana, the Chobe National Park, will be simpler to access thanks to the bridge. The bridge will give people a new way to access the Okavango Delta, which is anticipated to increase tourism in the region.
Number 5.
Gaborone-Bodil Road Project. The Gaborone-Bodil Road Project is a major road construction project that is underway in Botswana's capital city. The project involves the upgrade of an 18.4-kilometer stretch of road to dual carriageway standard. The project is expected to be completed in 2025, and it will cost an estimated $200 million. The upgraded road will improve traffic flow and reduce congestion in Gaborone. The upgraded road will make it easier for people to get around Gaborone, and it will also help to reduce traffic congestion. The project is also expected to boost economic development in Gaborone, as it will make the city more attractive to businesses and investors.
Number 4.
North-South Carrier 1 and 2 Project. In Botswana, there is a significant road construction project called the North-South Carrier 1 and 2 Project. The project entails building 2 new highways that will link the north and south of the nation. The project will reportedly cost $1 billion and should be finished in 2027. The new highways will increase road connectivity and stimulate Botswana's economy. People and goods will be able to travel between the north and south of Botswana more easily thanks to the new highways. Because it will make it simpler for businesses to run and for investors to invest, the project is also anticipated to have a positive impact on the nation's economic growth. Botswana Water Supply and Sanitation Project. The Water Supply and Sanitation Project is aimed at improving access to clean water and sanitation facilities in Botswana. The project includes the construction of new water treatment plants, distribution networks, and sanitation facilities in urban and rural areas.
Number 2.
The 3 Gaborone Interchanges Project. In the capital of Botswana, the 3 Gaborone Interchanges Project is a more modest undertaking. On the city's ring road, 3 new interchanges will be built as part of the project.
You're starting to notice
the project
a trend.
will probably cost $50 million
We can
and should be
forward
finished
this we can forward this towards the end.
Yula Bridge Project.
So
Botswana and Zambia are partners in the Kazungula Bridge Project. It entails building a railroad and road bridge over the Zambezi River. The bridge will cost approximately $1.7 billion when it is finished in 2023. The bridge will significantly boost both nations' economies and strengthen regional integration. New trade opportunities between Botswana and Zambia will result from the bridge, which will also facilitate travel between the two nations. The bridge will give...
Those who are paying keen attention will notice a trend. What is that trend? You saw that the major projects were around electricity, water, and transportation. If you are going to grow a country, you've got to have the basics taken care of and expanded. You have to have expanded and reliable electricity. You have to have expanded and reliable water. And you have to have expanded and reliable roads to be able to move commerce, traffic, and people. You have to have all of this in place or you cannot grow as a country. And they're taking it to the highest of levels there. And what is also the common thread in all of this in terms of what's needed? Engineers. You're going to do electricity, you're going to need engineers. You're going to do water, you need engineers. You're going to do roads, you need engineers. You're starting to see why I say that African engineers are the most important people on earth, at least in my estimation. And I feel like there should be holidays named after African engineers. In every single African country, they should have holidays for their engineers and the top engineers who solve problems. Like it should be a day to celebrate engineers all over Africa, because they're the ones that are going to transform Africa. All right. And what I want to do is I want to get into some of the history to see what has happened in health services. Yeah. I'm going to show you all a little bit of the history of Botswana and see where Botswana has come from, just like you all were able to see where Singapore came from in terms of it being a malaria-infested, basically a small fishing village that was malaria-infested. And then one man came, Lee Kuan Yew, with his vision, and his dedication and transformed the country. Well, Botswana has somewhat of a similar story that a lot of us are not even familiar with. So this is for the folks who love Africa, who are looking for more and more information. And I think that you'll be happy learning today about Botswana if you didn't know about it before. And their story. It's important to know their story. So we're going to look at this one. We're going to look at a few of them because everyone, has different perspectives. But this is from the channel Africa Reloaded. Okay, it's a YouTube channel called Africa Reloaded. And the title is Botswana, an Economic Miracle, from second poorest country to fastest growing economy in the world. And when it means second poorest, it was once the second poorest country in the world. And it became the fastest growing economy in the world, faster than China, by the way. So we need to pay attention to this story. So let's listen to what this guy got to say, or what this lady got to say. Let's just see what they got to say and try to soak in the history.
Botswana, an economic miracle, from second poorest country to fastest growing economy in the world. Botswana, in southern Africa, was the second poorest nation in the world after achieving independence from Great Britain in 1966. There were just 12 kilometers of paved roads in the...
Listen, in 1966, Botswana was the second poorest country in the world. Like, pay attention to that. These changes, and it became the fastest growing economy in the world. This doesn't happen by accident, y'all. It happens by talented and serious people who plan and execute. So let's listen to, let me just go back a little bit and just pay attention to what's being said.
An economic miracle, from second poorest country to fastest growing economy in the world. Botswana, in southern Africa, was the second poorest nation in the world after achieving independence from Great Britain in 1966. There were just 12 kilometers of paved roads in the entire nation, despite it having a territory roughly the same size as Spain. His people were largely uneducated, and there were no universities, hospitals, or other educational institutions. Only 22 persons, even within the small educated population, had graduated from college, and only roughly 100 more had completed high school. The majority of the populace relied solely on cattle herding and subsistence farming because the nation lacked a formal economy. But 5 decades later, Botswana stands out as one of the most astonishing success stories in economic development. How did Botswana achieve this status? How did its economy undergo such a miracle? And how did it change? Stay with Africa Reloaded to the end to discover how. Today, Botswana is the greatest producer of gem diamonds in the world and one of the few middle-income nations in sub-Saharan Africa. According to a recent estimate, Botswana's GDP per capita is just over $18,500, ranking it above Brazil and Iran, and with nations like Mexico and Turkey. The least corrupt nation in Africa, Botswana, scored higher than South Korea, Italy, and China on the most recent Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. In addition to having the longest-running multi-party democracy in Africa, Botswana is also among the continent's most tolerant and tranquil nations. There are many reasons why Botswana has been successful, but one of the most crucial ones was the visionary leadership of Sir Cyrus Khama, the country's first president.
So this is Khama. President Khama was their first president after colonialism, and he's essentially the Lee Kuan Yew of Botswana. Now, let's be clear on a couple things. When you hear about this man, they're going to talk about certain things that are irrelevant in terms of what you need to focus on. So, for instance, one of the big things about this particular man in terms of the media coverage was that he was married to a European woman, and that became their focus. And of course, we like to have continuity amongst Africans. That is not an important aspect of this man's life in terms of what he actually did to the country. However, a lot of the conversation about him will be diverted to that. What I'm more interested in is his policies, what he did to take a country that only had 100 people who ever graduated from college, roads that were pretty much non-existent, to where they're at now, and how he took the diamonds of that country and leveraged the diamonds to bring wealth amongst their people, where the average income of person in Botswana is close to $20,000 a year. That's the average income. In America, the average income is about $35,000 a year. So, and then the cost of living is much cheaper there. So that $20,000 spreads a lot farther in Botswana than $35,000. That $20,000 in Botswana is probably close to $80,000 in the US in terms of the price of everything. So this is a very serious development that this man brought forth. So I just want to let you all know that sometimes when people cover people, like for instance, a lot of the brouhaha about Bob Marley in the movie was the different women he was involved in. And that's the last, involved with, that's the last aspect of what made Bob Marley great, or why you should know about Bob Marley. It's not his personal relationships, it's actually what he actually produced. And so when we talk about this particular man, we have to focus on his policies and the fact that he was not corrupt, because he could have taken the diamond wealth of the country, like what Mobutu did with the Congo, and kept it all for himself, but he did not do that. He actually developed the country to the second fastest growing, to the fastest growing economy in the world, from the second poorest country in the world. That's a hell of a feat. That is a hell of a feat, and he has to be applauded for that. So you all should know this name, okay?
But one of the most crucial ones was the visionary leadership of Sir Cyrus Khama, the country's first president, who was portrayed by British-Nigerian actor David Oyelowo in the 2016 movie.
Remember the name, Cyrus Khama. That's his name. Just like we know the Patrice Lumumbas and the Kwame Nkrumahs and what he did for his people to take it from the second poorest country in the world to the fastest growing economy has to be studied.
United Kingdom. Sir Cyrus Khama catapulted to international celebrity after the public scandal that followed his marriage to his English bride Ruth Williams. Sir Cyrus Khama was born the heir to the throne of the most powerful royal family in what was then known as the British Protectorate of Bechuanaland. The union was rejected both domestically and internationally, first by Khama's own family, and then by the government of the Union of South Africa, which shared a border with Bechuanaland and supported apartheid. Bechuanaland was a British protectorate, not a British colony, hence it was still officially ruled by the native Bechuanaland rulers, rather than the British Crown, unlike nations like Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria. And so, by going against his family's wishes, Cyrus Khama was put in his political future at serious risk. Even if the majority of Khama's kinsmen finally came to accept the union, the geopolitical fallout would be much more challenging to overcome. The South African government was strongly opposed to an interracial couple holding such a significant position in a huge country immediately across the northern border because it had outlawed interracial marriages in 1949. Cyrus Khama and his wife Ruth are forbidden from entering South African territory. The South African government acts swiftly. The city of Mafeking, which at the time served as the administrative center of Bechuanaland, was also included in the prohibition. Additionally, the South Africans petitioned the British authorities to deny Cyrus Khama his birthright to the position of chief of one of the most powerful tribes in Bechuanaland. Britain cannot afford to risk severing ties with South Africa, which was its main supply of inexpensive gold and uranium during World War II, given the Labour-led government of Prime Minister Clement Attlee's debt load. The British government undertook a judicial inquiry, which finally found that Chana would have been ideal for leadership except for his tragic marriage, despite receiving harsh criticism from numerous pressure organizations. After Cyrus Khama renounced the throne, Khama and his wife were subsequently exiled from the patronal, and in 1951. In 1956, however, the copper was allowed to return by attempting to settle as regular citizens. Khama then returned to politics in 1961 when he founded the Patronal and Democratic Party. His exile and renunciation of the throne had raised his profile among ordinary people, and he was elected Prime Minister of Bechuanaland.
Okay, so he actually came from a royal family from that area. He was the heir to the throne, to the royal family, and they end up electing him as the president of the new Botswana. Now, the story about his wife and all that is not remotely interesting to me. I'm more interested in what he did and his policies.
With Sir Cyrus Khama serving as its first president, Bechuanaland became the independent Republic of Botswana on September 30, 1966, under the leadership of President Khama. Khama quickly started to work on what would ultimately be remembered as one of the most amazing economic reform initiatives in modern African history, since his newly independent country was in dire need of basic utilities and severely poor. Building an economy centered on the three primary resources of the nation, copper, diamonds, and cattle, was the foundation of Khama's strategy to restructure Botswana. Khama's administration would be an exception to the trend, whereas many other newly independent African nations would go on to see the resources become more of a curse than a blessing due to greed, corruption, and tribal infighting. Suretse's economic policy.
You hear that? So in some African countries, having resources is seen as a curse because you've got infighting going on, you've got corruption going on. In his case, they've got diamonds, and it actually ends up being a blessing because it was managed properly with the proper leadership. Leadership is everything, y'all. Let me rewind that. Leadership is everything.
Than a blessing due to greed, corruption, and tribal infighting. Suretse's economic strategy to restructure Botswana. Khama's administration would be an exception to the trend, whereas many other newly independent African nations would go on to see the resources become more of a curse than a blessing due to greed, corruption, and tribal infighting. Suretse's economic policies would go against the Marxist consensus in the majority of Africa's newly independent governments, including Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana and Sékou Touré's Guinea, in addition to establishing a very strong judicial and legislative system with adequate checks and balances. In his administration, practicality would take precedence over idealism, and business-friendly policies like low corporate and income taxes and import tariffs would be implemented. Khama was resolved to create a...
So he had low import tariffs. So, low imports, low corporate taxes, low... Remember what Maget Way talked about, creating a business environment that is amenable and sweet for your entrepreneurs. And as she was saying, if you do that, then you get economic growth, because how do most people get money? Most people get money through their income. Where they get their income from jobs. Where do you get jobs from? From entrepreneurs. Where do you get entrepreneurs from? You get entrepreneurs from having a business environment that is pro-entrepreneur and makes it easy for entrepreneurs to actually function and set up shop. Then the entrepreneurs will take care of the rest. They will hire people, they will create money, they will create wealth and create families with incomes. So this is the route that they took. And they're coming from the second poorest country in the world, not the second poorest country in Africa. They were the second poorest country in the world. That's including Asia, Europe, Australia, wherever. They were the second poorest country. And they became the fastest growing economy in the world. And it just takes a tweak in policies and a tweak in leadership. Once you have the right leadership and the right policies, it looks like the sky can be the limit for the growth and the trajectory of every country or any country. Look at Singapore. We saw El Salvador a couple of days ago, and now we're going over Botswana.
Country where character and talent, rather than skin color, would be the main determining factor for achievement and opportunity, despite sharing a border with the overtly racist regimes of South Africa and Rhodesia. Khama's government repeatedly stated that it would continue to employ foreign workers until the local population was sufficiently educated and skilled to compete for the same jobs, despite being under intense political pressure to forcibly replace all foreign civil service employees with native-born citizens, regardless of skill levels. Additionally, Khama hired...
So this is a very important point as well, because you become president of a country that's underdeveloped. Your people are not trained to be able to do certain tasks. And what do? So what you do is you don't hire untrained people to have responsibilities, because it's going to reflect in the results of your country. So what he did was he got people from the outside who were trained, but he also made sure that his people were going to be trained so that in the future they could take over these spots. So what happens in a lot of countries, you have someone do a coup d'etat, and they'll put in their family members or the people that they trust who don't have the requisite qualifications for these jobs, and then you end up getting what you get, right? So it is important to home team, but make sure that when you do home team, that the home team is ready for the responsibilities. And so in terms of what happened with Botswana, they allowed outside people to be there and policy advisors to be there who had the experience in engineering projects and civil works projects and all of that. But he also made sure that his people got trained within time so that they could one day eventually take over.
Of skill levels. Additionally, Kama hired a number of policy advisors and invited foreign mining corporations to explore his territory for additional minerals. As more copper, nickel, and coal deposits were found, the government's revenue significantly increased. In 1969, the Botswana government and the De Beers mining firm established a joint venture that is now known as the Botswana Mining Company. The Botswana government raised its ownership in the company over the course of the following 5 years from 15% to a full 50%. It is also said to have secured a profit-sharing arrangement under which the government received 70% of the proceeds from every $1 in sales of Botswana diamonds.
So, De Beers had the technology to dig for the diamonds, and he decided to engage with them, but he did not engage with them. There's two things that he did that's very interesting. Well, one thing, he did three things. He did decide to engage with them, but second, he recognized that these people definitely were devilish, but he engaged with them under certain terms. A lot of times these African leaders will engage with these folks on non-favorable terms because they have low self-esteem. So a lot of times they'll end up getting 10% royalties. In this case, he was getting 70%. The country got 70% of the profits from digging the diamonds. That's not a bad deal. Whereas in Jamaica, you have a guy named Bustamante, and he cut a deal with the British for the bauxite of the country, and he basically received 1 shilling per ton. That's what Bustamante is known for. He's actually known as a hero of the country, and he signed the deal 1 shilling per ton, which is a terrible deal for bauxite, which is used to process aluminum. So finding the details of the numbers is actually very impressive that he negotiated 70% of the profits will go to Botswana. And the third thing that he did was he didn't keep that 70% for himself and his family, as many other leaders of developing countries, whether it be Asia, Africa, South America. I'd say 90% of the leaders would keep that money for themselves and their families and their cronies and let the country go to hell. He didn't do that. And so that's why he stands out.
By the middle of the 1970s,
let's rewind that a little bit.
That is now known as the Botswana Mining Company. The Botswana government raised its ownership in the company over the course of the following 5 years from 15% to a full 50%. It is also said to have secured a profit-sharing arrangement under which the government received 70% of the proceeds from every $1 in sales of Botswana diamonds. By the middle of the 1970s, Botswana's mining industry was bringing in so much money that the country's government was maintaining a budget surplus. Botswana had the fastest growing economy in the world between 1960 and 1980.
All right, this is very important. They were making so much money that the government had a surplus. They had a surplus. But what does it mean for the government to have a surplus? It means a couple things. One of the things that it means is that they're making more money than they're spending, which is great, right? That their spending programs are not even reaching the money that they're making. So that's number one. Number two, the only way that you can have a surplus in these types of situations is if people ain't stealing, right? That means that they got extra money, and the fact that the surplus can be reported means that people ain't eating up the surplus for themselves in terms of these ministers sitting down here, see these government leaders. In most of these countries, you see most of them with pot bellies because they're eating off of the largesse of the country. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, you can actually look at these guys, and I'm looking at them. I'm looking at all of their stomachs, and they seem to be pretty thin, which is a great indication that these guys are not stealing from the country. Anytime you see government leaders and they're all sitting down with major pot bellies, look like they're 6-8 months pregnant, you better believe that there's some type of stealing going on. And I'm looking at these men, and they seem to be a little trim around the waist area, which is a great sign. They were in surplus. The only way you can be in surplus means that you've got more money than you can spend. So that means that corruption was really something that was not very prevalent at least to the point where it wasn't toxic in Botswana. All right, let's go forward.
Botswana's mining industry was bringing in so much money that the country's government was maintaining a budget surplus. Botswana had the fastest growing economy in the world between 1960 and 1980, and the Khama administration.
So, between 1960 and 1980, had the fastest growing economy in the world. You went from the second poorest country in 1960, and then 20 years, within 20 years, you have the fastest growing economy in the world. This doesn't happen by accident, y'all.
Successfully invested its income in developing the nation's infrastructure and establishing free hospitals, public schools, and universities.
Free hospitals, public schools, and free universities. That's what they did with their budget surplus. The budget surplus didn't go to the bank accounts of the president, his family, and his minions. It went to developing the country. And when you do things like this, you start to see more economic prosperity. So we start to find out that, as Nayib Bukele of El Salvador says, you can develop a country as long as there's enough money to develop a country as long as people don't steal. Botswana is a great example of that. So we talk about Africa. Why can't Africa develop? A lot of us, rightfully so, are going to blame the European colonizers. We're going to, because we know the history. But it is not just the European colonizers alone. There has to be African partners who agree with the European colonizers to steal from the country. But if you're not that type of a person, yes, they can kill you, but guess what? The new generation has to keep the same type of vibe. That generation after generation, we're focused on developing Africa without apology. We don't care who comes in and tries to threaten us or cajole or do whatever they're trying to do. We have a mission, and the mission is that we're going to grow our economy, grow the wealth of our people, grow entrepreneurship. We're not going to steal from our country, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may. That's the formula. And this is the formula seen across the board. Of course, they don't like Nayib Bukele. Of course, they don't like Paul Kagame. Of course, they didn't like Khama. Of course, they didn't like a lot of these people that we're going to be studying. Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew got a huge fight from a lot of Western powers, but at the same time, he had to do what he had to do. And look where Singapore is at. So let's continue.
And establishing free hospitals, public schools, and universities, thanks to a productive and largely corruption-free civil service.
Largely corruption-free civil service. That's so key.
The government built slaughterhouses, subsidized the care of livestock, and created cattle ranches in order to support the growth of the meat industry. The Botswana Meats Commission was established as the nation's single entity in charge of setting pricing and marketing beef to domestic and foreign markets. Additionally, Khama personally negotiated a lucrative trade agreement with the European Economic Community that allowed Botswana to sell cattle to Europe at a price above the global average. As economic development was Khama's main priority, Botswana initially only allocated a small fraction of its national budget to military expenses. The Botswana Defense Force was established in 1977 to act as the nation's main armed force. However, this was in response to recurrent threats of invasion by South African or Rhodesian forces. The goal of Botswana's foreign policy has always been to maintain neutrality and limit the use of force to self-defense. Nevertheless, Soret's Khama would be crucial in the discussions that led to the end of the Rhodesian Bush War and the establishment of Zimbabwe as an independent country. In addition, he played a key role in the formation of the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, which later developed into the Southern African Development Community, the foremost intergovernmental organization promoting economic cooperation among the 16 African nations of Southern Africa. The Botswana Democratic Party, which was in power under Khama's administration, went on to triumph in 1969, 1974, and 1979. A little over a year after winning his third election, Sir Soret Khama was sadly afflicted with pancreatic cancer. He passed away while in office on July 13, 1980, and was succeeded by his vice president Kwetma Zaire. Even after his terrible death in a coma, Ian Khama, his son, became the 4th president of Botswana in a landslide victory 20 years after the tragic end of his tenure. Despite the fact that his accomplishments may never receive the same amount of acclaim as those of other well-known African leaders, including South Africa's Nelson Mandela, Sir Seretse Khama would always be remembered and honored by the people of Botswana as one of the greatest statesmen the nation has ever produced, comparable to Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah or Burkina Faso's Thomas Sankara. Thanks for watching this video to the end. Please do us a favor by liking the video and subscribe.
So, President Khama has to be studied, y'all. And the fact that he's not well known is a reflection of the fact that many of us are lost in how to develop a country properly, right? If we knew how to develop countries properly, we definitely would know Lee Kuan Yew. We would know Seretse Khama, because these people did it. And the trend is having vision, applying the vision, and not stealing from your people. How about that? I'm going to show you another video called Botswana, How to Make a Country Rich from Scratch. Let's see what this one's like. It's a very provocative title. I'm very interested in these types of stories. How do you make a country rich from scratch? Well, there's a few people who've been successful doing it. So let's watch his story here.
African dude, and you've been elected the president of an African.
All right, hold on. What I'm going
Let's
to
say
do
you're
is
just a random African dude, and you've been elected.
a random African dude. These people are funny. But what he's saying is like, why is it that you were able to do it and all these other presidents weren't able to do it? So it's a question to be asked. So let's watch.
Let's say you're just a random African dude, and you've been elected the president of an African country that recently gained independence from Great Britain. Your country is the 3rd poorest in the world. You have only 12 miles of paved road. You have only 100 high school graduates in a country of 500,000. Disease is rampant. There's been a drought for 2 years, and you even rely on your previous colonizer to make sure that your government doesn't instantly run out of money. You'd really like to make this better, and other countries in the region have made real progress in helping their citizens before. But they've come at the expense of human rights, the rule of law, democracy, and general freedom. You'd really like to make sure that your population can have both a good standard of living while also having social and political rights. Here's how you'd go about doing that. Firstly, what resources do you have? You should first take stock of what your country has to offer. What have you got? Cattle farming, vast wilderness, mineral deposits with no tools to get them. Anything else? That's it. Seriously. This is going to be harder than I thought. Okay, so the mines. You take out a big fat loan from the International Monetary Fund and use it to get the tools to crack at your vast mining deposits. With that, you can export it to the Western world and use the money to pay off your loan as well as keep the government running smoothly. Wait. Running the government? Everyone is uneducated and unskilled. Who will run the country? Right, well, the British. Yes, the British. Those who were part of the colonial administration can continue to work here until a large enough pool of qualified locals develops. No problem. So with the mining rigs up and running, you can sell the minerals to the rest of the world, becoming an export-focused economy. You would personally negotiate a trade deal with the European Economic Community so that you can start importing and exporting goods freely. The revenue from these trades you can use to invest in health and education. With a public-private ownership model of the mining corporations, 50% of your government revenue comes from the mining industry, and this allows you to keep taxes low and even raise more money than you need to spend. That means bountiful dividends to the public and heavy investment from foreign companies. It also means you can ditch the South African rand as your money and set up your own central bank to use your own currency. By now, you have the fastest growing economy in the world. That means subsidies to farmers, vaccinations against diseases, universal education, universal healthcare, airports, contraception, telephones, technology, slippers. At the same time, civil rights and the rule of law are still being protected. Because you're still using the 1966 constitution drawn up by the British, it means you still have to respect the rule of law, and that means free and fair elections. So in 1969, Botswana held its second presidential election since independence. Unsurprisingly, you were re-elected with nearly 70% of the vote, and again in 1974 with an even higher percentage. Again in a completely legitimate election. That's how good you are. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, however, as all around your country you are surrounded by the racist regimes of Rhodesia and apartheid South Africa. They do not like the fact that you, a black man, are shockingly running your own country and, get this, doing it well. Also, your wife is white. big no-no for racists. Until now, you didn't even need an army, because you focused more on poverty reduction than military spending. You never went to war with anyone, so why would you need them? But now Rhodesian and South African-backed terror groups are targeting you and commencing operations in your borders, so you formed the Botswana Defence Force in 1977 to keep them at bay. You also play a role in the founding of the Southern African Development Community as a way for the wider Southern African community to reduce their reliance on South Africa and Rhodesia. In 2019, this region had a nominal GDP slightly bigger than Switzerland. In 1979, you are elected for a fourth time, with 75% of the votes. Unfortunately, you die in office only a few days later and your vice president takes over. But he's just as popular as you, and to this day, your party has consistently been re-elected every election. Since you became president, there's not been a single military coup, major rebellion, or civil unrest. With a proper education system, 90% of your citizens are able to get an education up to age 13 at the very least. In the past 20 years, infant mortality is down, tuberculosis down 76%, STDs down by 2/3, and malnutrition down by 1/4. In just 13 years, the wealth of your citizens increased 10,000%. Not bad.
Did you all see that? In I said this earlier, in 13 years, the wealth of the citizens of Botswana increased by 10,000%. Why is this not news that is blasted around the whole African world and diaspora, that this is what happened in Botswana? That the wealth of the citizens increased by 10,000% by having the proper leadership that was not stealing and was actually focused on developing the country. 10,000%, y'all. Remember, these are the type of outsized numbers you're going to see when you go from the second or the third poorest country on the planet Earth to the fastest growing economy. The people, it starts to trickle down to the people in terms of employment, entrepreneurship, available money, opportunities, and all of that. So you start to see a 10,000% increase in the income and the wealth of your citizens. This is a story that can't stop being told. I'm just glad I'm telling it. Someone needs to tell it. So big up to Botswana. Let's rewind that.
Mortality is down 16%, tuberculosis down 76%, STDs down by 2/3, and malnutrition down by 1/4. In just 13 years, the wealth of your citizens increased 10,000%. Not bad in relation to some of the other countries in the area. Today, your country ranks the lowest in Africa for corruption and instability, and even has accumulated over 7 billion in foreign currency reserves. Over 270,000 tourists visit yearly, despite a 2014 ban on poaching and game hunting. In 2019, your government scrapped a law.
They have 7 billion in foreign reserves. It's incredible. $7 billion in foreign, and the way you get that is you have an export economy where people are buying your goods, or people are bringing their money from their country into your country and spending it and exchanging their dollars for your dollars. That is how you build wealth. You have to have an attractive country. This is what we talked about in terms of how a currency gets strong. And so I believe Kasha Ku had asked that question, and then Kasha Ku brought up the fact that Botswana has the strongest currency in Africa, and the reason is that they have these foreign currency reserves. The only reason why they have these foreign currency reserves is because people are attracted to Botswana, buying their goods, buying their diamonds, so they're changing over their money. And the Rwandans are holding for over $7 billion. And that's what creates a serious economy. Okay? So
that's not to say your country is now a utopia, though. Nepotism, unemployment, over-reliance on mining, erosion of free speech, as well as a huge AIDS crisis have been plaguing your country in recent times. But with an educated and open-minded population, you should be confident that these are all problems that can be overcome. So in answer to the question, how do you make a country rich from nothing? Number 1, work creatively with your natural resources. Number 2, be practical instead of ideological. And 3, uphold civil liberties and the rule of law.
So that's a piece there that's very important, y'all. And there's so much more. There are more videos on Botswana, how it did what it did. They have one called, Rwanda Rags to Riches. It's going to tell much of the same of what we've heard. Maybe I'll just play one more video because sometimes some videos have different perspectives and a little different information. So I'm going to play this last one, and we can start, chopping it up a little bit. Yes, they set up their own central bank to print their money. That's very important. Botswana is a beautiful story. Yeah, it's a giant perfect example of liquid but talawa. Yeah, liquid but strong. It says wow. It says haters. They also set up their own central bank. Yep. So let's check this one out. It was called From Rags to Riches. All right. So in this one here is going to be the same old, but what they might have is a little bit more information. Just like that video there showed 10,000% rise in the wealth of the average Botswanan. That's huge.
In Africa, the region of Africa that lies south of the Sahara. It includes...
Let's start from the top.
This is sub-Saharan Africa, the region of Africa that lies south of the Sahara. It includes Central Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa. The region has 30% of the Earth's mineral resource reserve.
By the way, the title is From Rags to Riches, Unveiling Botswana's Economic Triumph. That's a big title.
Which include vast deposits of oil, uranium ore, gold, and diamonds. But a closer look reveals that it is, by far, the poorest region on Earth. In the tumultuous African history, the painful echoes of slavery reverberated across time, tearing apart communities and ravaging societies. After gaining independence from European powers, the continent entered a turbulent era marked by dictators who tightened their grip on power, stifling opposition and suppressing dissenting voices. As a result, the land witnessed various conflicts in the last 50 years, ranging from the Nigerian Civil War to the Rwandan genocide and the recent civil war in Sudan. It is not surprising that sub-Saharan countries have experienced poor economic growth rates over the years. The World Bank predicts that by 2030, 62% of the world's very poor people will live in resource-rich sub-Saharan countries, up from 12% in 2000. Effectively managing its resources is crucial for the future of Africa. The world has a high demand for Africa's hydrocarbons, and its minerals are essential for cleaner energy. Sadly, many African politicians risk wasting this opportunity by failing to implement the right policies. However, one African country has been an extraordinary exception: Botswana. Botswana today is the world's second largest producer of gem diamonds, and is the world's fastest growing economy, with an average annual growth rate of about 5% over the past decade. It is one of the handful of upper middle income countries in sub-Saharan Africa, with the GDP per capita recently estimated at over $19,300. This places it ahead of the fastest emerging economies like Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, and India. Over the next 4 decades, its economic...
So Botswana is actually in front of Brazil. It's in front of, let's see, the other countries.
South Africa, Indonesia.
South Africa, Indonesia, and India. So it's doing better than those countries. Very interesting.
And India. Over the next 4 decades, its economic growth rate rivaled that of China, Singapore, and South Korea. And today...
Y'all hear that? Its growth rate over the next 4 decades, it rivaled China, Singapore, and South Korea, which are like countries that are balling. So this Botswana story has to be known and it has to be told.
Its economic growth rate rivaled that of China, Singapore, and South Korea. And today, it is one of the richest countries in Africa. Botswana has a high level of economic freedom compared to other African countries, and in the most recent Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, it was ranked as the least corrupt country in Africa, posting far better scores than Russia, Italy, and China.
And that's a big deal that it actually ranked higher than Rwanda for corruption is a very big deal, because Rwanda, you might find petty corruption like on the street level, but like in terms of like how the place operates, you don't really see corruption like that. Not like you'll see in Nigeria or Kenya or Ghana. But the fact that Botswana beats Rwanda is very impressive.
At independence in 1966, Botswana was one of the poorest countries in the world. with only 12 kilometers of paved roads in the entire country.
That's crazy.
There were no
The whole country had only 12 kilometers of paved roads. That's crazy.
hospitals or universities, and the majority of its population was illiterate, with only 22 people having attended university. The country's GDP per capita was half the average in sub-Saharan Africa. However, today, Botswana has the highest average income on the African mainland and stands as Africa's longest-running multi-party democracy.
Highest average income on the African mainland. That's a big deal.
It is also renowned as one of the most tolerant and peaceful countries in Africa. So, how did this even happen? How is the Botswana economy drastically better than its neighbors? And most importantly, is this miraculous growth sustainable in the long run? Botswana is a landlocked country, roughly the size of France. It is bordered to the south by the Republic of South Africa, to the west and north by Namibia, and to the east by Zimbabwe. In the late 1800s, Britain was becoming a powerful colonial force in southern Africa, strengthening its military and economic presence. Meanwhile, Dutch settlers known as Afrikaners, or Boers, and German settlers in Namibia, then Southwest Africa, were expanding their territories, encroaching upon Botswana lands. In 1870, 3 traditional leaders from Botswana expressed their concerns to the British government about the potential annexation of their lands by the Dutch and German settlers. With the support of local British organisations and individuals, their efforts to seek protection were successful in 1885, leading to the establishment of the Bechuanaland Protectorate. Bechuanaland, known as Botswana today, was under British protection, but not direct colonial rule. This meant that the native patron rulers retained leadership, rather than being governed directly by the British Crown. This map shows the Crown colony of Bechuanaland, shaded in pink, and the Bechuanaland Protectorate, indicated by a pink border. After being a British protectorate for 80 years, Bechuanaland achieved self-government in 1965 under the leadership of Seretse Khama. He was the son of a paramount chief and a figure surrounded by controversy due to his interracial marriage. Khama played a pivotal role in leading the independence movement and guiding Botswana's transition from British rule to an independent nation. In 1962, Khama founded the Botswana Democratic Party and later became the Prime Minister in 1965. Finally, in 1966, Botswana gained its independence, and Khama was elected as the country's first president. Khama was a visionary leader who embarked on what would ultimately be recognized as one of the most remarkable economic transformation programs in modern African history. His plan for Botswana's transformation revolved around harnessing the country's 3 primary resources: cattle, copper, and diamonds. While many other newly independent African governments faced challenges, as these resources became more of a curse than a blessing due to issues such as greed, corruption, and tribal conflicts, Khama's administration took a different approach. They embraced free market-friendly policies to promote economic development. Khama pledged to maintain low and stable taxes for mining companies, facilitated liberalized trade, and worked towards enhancing personal freedoms. Between 1960 and 1990, Botswana had the fastest-growing economy in the world. Not even the Asian tigers like Korea, Thailand, and Singapore exceeded Botswana's growth rates for 3 decades.
Like, that's a big deal. Look at that. Thailand, South Korea, Singapore were under Botswana in terms of growth rate. That's big.
This growth rate would have been impossible without diamonds. Back in 1967, De Beers, which was pretty much in control of diamond production around the world, made an incredible discovery: Ofori-Atta, the largest open-pit diamond mine in the world. Now, usually, when something like this happens in Africa, the opportunities are wasted. But not in Botswana. The leaders of Botswana back then were smart and made a great deal with De Beers, creating a productive partnership that benefited both sides. In Botswana, diamonds produced by Botswana, a 50-50 joint venture between Botswana's government and De Beers, account for 1/3 of the country's GDP, half of its public spending, and 3/4 of its foreign earnings. The government wisely utilized these revenues to heavily invest in expanding infrastructure, health.
You see, they reinvested it in the things that matter, as opposed to taking the money, pocketing it for themselves, and putting it in Swiss bank accounts. This has been the story of the majority of African leaders and Caribbean leaders and what have you. After they die, they leave these billions of dollars in these Swiss bank accounts that sometimes get recovered and sometimes doesn't, ends up just going to the Switzerland government. This has been happening for far too long. And when you hear these stories, you see what happens when people aren't corrupt and what they're able to do for a country. Africa, as everyone would know, should have the highest GDP in the world because it has the best resources in the world. It just has leaders, a lot of them who have glucose in their brain. And they can't even think straight that if you're going to actually steal from a country, you should probably develop it first. because you'll get a better return on investment on your theft. But they're not ambitious thieves. So here we go. Let's continue.
Care and the education system, the fundamental pillars for human development. This strategic investment further propelled economic growth in the country.
Remember when we talked about, earlier when we talked
effective
about
monetary and exchange rate policy.
We talked about capitalism and definition of capitalism being the productive use and reinvestment of capital. And then you have to define capital. And in the northern cradle of civilization, they have a limited definition of capital. Their definition of capital is only two things: goods and money. Whereas in the southern cradle, our definition of capital is goods, money, human beings, and environmental capital. So what he did was he took the goods, which is the diamonds, the money he got from the diamonds. So those are two forms of capital, the diamonds and the goods. I mean, the goods are the diamonds and the money is what you got from selling the diamonds, right? Well, he didn't stop there. He invested in the other two pillars of capital, according to the Southern Cradle, which is human capital. He invested in education, he invested in health, and also environmental capital. So this is what it's all about, y'all. If you're going to really understand how this works, we start putting these puzzles together and you start seeing certain trends. You start seeing what Maguette Wade is talking about. You start seeing what Lee Kuan Yew is talking about. You start hearing what Nayib Bukele is talking about. You start hearing what people who are into Bitcoin are talking about. When you talk about monetary policy, you start talking about the degradation of fiat currency. You start understanding these things and you start getting a worldview now where it becomes very clear what needs to be done in your life to be an entrepreneur. That it's better to be an entrepreneur than to be a worker. And it's also better that if you run a country, you have to make sure that corruption is out of the way, because corruption is a cancer to the growth of a country. Nobody should be allowed to be corrupt. And that's why I say right now, and that's why I'm going to change the screen. In China, I've said this before, in China, corruption is punished by death. If you're a government official and you're found to be corrupt, they imprison you, and you know, and they know that you're going to be executed. Now, in China, they don't just execute people just to execute people. So what happens in China, as I've explained before, is you'll be in the jail cell and you'll know that it's your execution day when you start hearing sirens. What are the sirens? Those aren't police sirens. Those are ambulance sirens. Why are ambulance sirens going off on your day of execution, being brought to the jail? Because the Chinese government is going to extract your organs, because their opinion is that if you're not useful to this country, you're going to be useful, right? You're such a useless person that you were stealing from the country and taking away from the wealth creation of the country, which then trickles down and affects everybody. As we can see, when a country is not corrupt and a country is corrupt, the difference is 10,000% in terms of wealth growth for the average individual. So they want to make sure that you don't stifle that. But if you get caught trying to stifle that, you will be useful in one way or the other. And the way that you will be useful is your organs will be donated to people who need it, who need kidney transplants, liver transplant. They're going to make you useful, whether you like it or not. That's the decisions that have to be made when you decide that you're going to run a country. Some people might turn their nose at it and be like, thing to do, but the development of a people is a deadly serious endeavor, and leads to generational trauma and generational poverty if it's not done correctly. And you cannot allow a few greedy ass men to ruin it for everybody. And this is the story that you see whenever you see an African country that's not fully developed. What you know for sure is that leadership is corrupt, because with small amounts of money that's not stolen can be used to develop a country. Nayib Bukele has proven it. So let's just go forward and finish this, and we can just chop it up a little.
plays a crucial role in Botswana's ability to manage inflation, money supply, exchange rates, and the regulation of financial institutions. One significant aspect of Botswana's monetary policy is the regulation of interest rates. An important focus of this policy is to set interest rates in a way that meets the needs of local businesses and supports overall economic growth. This requires finding the right balance between providing affordable credit.
Okay, you see, this is very big, and I'll tell you all the story. So they control the interest rates, and they don't allow like the banks, whatever, to run roughshod in the country in terms of interest rates. They set the interest rates to a place that is amenable to business creators. This is very important. This is extremely important because, oh, I wasn't sharing the screen, sorry. So the reason why this is important is I give you a real life example. In all African countries that I have been to, I've gone to the banks and I've talked to them. I've talked to bankers, and the interest rate for a business loan is 22%, which is crazy. And the interest rate for a mortgage is around 23%, which is crazy, which means that people in America, like my house, my interest rate is 4%. And I could have gotten lower if I refinanced during COVID. I could have got it closer to 1.5%. 1.5% or 4% is quite different to 23%. So home ownership is not going to be something that can be done very readily by the average person in a country where the banks are trying to get 23%. As a matter of fact, over 18% is considered loan sharking in the state of Florida. So most of these banks in Africa are actually loan sharking, which is contributing to the lack of growth in their economy, because the business people can't get loans for their business because the interest rates are just exorbitant. So in Botswana, it looks like they control the interest rates to a point where the banks just can't be like 20-25% for a business loan. It has to be lower so that the banks actually can serve as public servants for the economy, which is really what the banks are supposed to do. They're supposed to be the public servants for the economy by storing people's money, by giving loans robustly at low interest rates, so that people can actually, the honest people of your country can actually get loans to do the things that they need to do, particularly your entrepreneurs. Botswana figured that out. A lot of African countries have not. And so that's why you don't see velocity of money. The telltale sign of a growing economy is the velocity of money, how fast money moves from one hand to the other. But it can't if your entrepreneurs got their hands tied. If I want to expand my restaurant, but I can't because I can't buy restaurant equipment at a good percentage interest rate, well, it limits the amount of customers I can get because I can't get more stoves and more ovens to create more food and get more brick and mortar space to expand my restaurant, even franchise. I can't do it because I can't get loans from the bank that are reasonable. You see how this all works? And so now I've only got one restaurant, but in an environment where the interest rates are low, I can get loans that make sense to give me enough time to pay back. And they're not trying to give me 20% interest rate for the year, which then it compounds over time and it becomes unaffordable. So now in a place where I have a low interest rate, I can actually have a franchise of 6, 7, 10 restaurants because I can take the loan. I know how to operate business, and the limiting factor is just the capital. I have the experience. So when you empower an entrepreneur like that, what has happened now that he's able to get that bank loan to open 10 more restaurants? He's hired more people, which means that more families are being fed, which means that you have a greater tax base for income taxes, which means that the families got more money to spend on goods made in Botswana, right? So now all the other vendors, all the other business people are benefiting from the fact that I opened up 10 restaurants. This is called the velocity of money, y'all. And it's like a domino effect. It really is, or a snowball effect. And if you don't understand that, you can't develop a country. And most of the people who are running countries that I've seen in the Caribbean, and then now in America, we saw Biden's chief advisor yesterday talking. Woe unto anybody who has to be subject to his financial policies, because he don't even understand what he's talking about. It was clear yesterday. He was confused. And so you can't be in the hands of people like this. And that's why exercising your passport is very important. When you see poor leadership, you got to get the hell out. Poor leadership is going to lead to poor results. And you don't want to get caught up in that. You understand? All right. So let's check out this last part of this. And I want to make sure it's being shared, because I think before it wasn't being shared. So let me, in terms of the screen being shared, so let me share that again. All right. So there we are.
This strategic investment further propelled economic growth in the country. A well-planned and effective monetary and exchange rate policy plays a crucial role in Botswana's ability to manage inflation, money supply, exchange rates, and the regulation of financial institutions. One significant aspect of Botswana's monetary policy is the regulation of interest rates. An important focus of this policy is to set interest rates in a way that meets the needs of local businesses and supports overall economic growth. This requires finding the right balance between providing affordable credit to businesses and individuals, while also considering the potential impact on inflation and maintaining the stability of the financial system. All in all, according to the Economic Freedom of the World report, Botswana was one of Africa's most economically free countries. While many other nations embraced some form of socialism, Botswana was, broadly speaking, capitalist. Its fruitful relationship with De Beers, a giant mining corporation, is worth noting. But like many African countries, Botswana has struggled to diversify its economy. The unemployment rate in Botswana averaged 19.92% from 1991 until 2022, reaching an all-time high of 26.20% in 2008, and income equality among the worst in the world. Diamonds still account for over 80% of export revenues, unlike Rwanda, which has successfully diversified its economy, boasting thriving banks and business services firms. To address the...
And as you see, Botswana is addressing the issue of being a one-trick pony. And that's why you saw that manufacturing going on. So I wonder what year this is from. This is from, this video, this particular video is from, oh, this is from 9 months ago. So this is quite recent, okay? So he's just talking about it being a singular economy. 80% of export revenues shouldn't be one thing, right? And it's diamonds. They're gonna have to definitely diversify to electronics and other types of things, to the point where Botswana should be competing with Taiwan and South Korea and Japan for the electronics market. That would be really nice to see.
Issue of unemployment, new technologies and investments in a skilled workforce could potentially help by promoting diamond cutting and polishing within Botswana itself, rather than relying on India. Currently, more than 90% of the world's diamonds are cut and polished in India. Although Botswana is actively working to diversify its economy by shifting focus from mining minerals to mining knowledge, it's launched its new national e-commerce strategy, which puts e-commerce and the digital economy at the forefront of efforts to ensure the flow of digitalized content and information, goods, services, and data. The nation believes that embracing this approach will help foster the growth of a knowledge-based economy. The national e-commerce strategy is seen as a significant milestone in strengthening and diversifying the country's economy. It also aims to promote trade and support the growth of local businesses and entrepreneurs. Currently, Botswana is facing the prospect of its diamond deposits running out by 2030. Despite decades of discussion about diversifying the economy, little progress has been made. Efforts are being made to promote commercial farming and safari tourism, capitalizing on the country's expansive and wildlife-rich natural landscapes. But creating a diverse economy on a large scale in a country with a population of just 2 million will be challenging. There are concerns regarding the recent direction of Botswana under the leadership of former President Ian Khama and current President Mokgweetsi Masisi. The country has shown signs of deviating from the principles that led to its previous success. Economic populism, protectionism, and instances of power abuse are beginning to emerge. Botswana's history serves as a reminder that prioritizing fundamental principles can yield long-lasting benefits. While diamonds, a significant part of Botswana's economy, may not last forever, the benefits of a sound policy can.
All right. So as they were saying earlier, Botswana is making a pivot because they looked at their diamond reserves and they know that They can't rely on diamonds forever, just like Saudi Arabia. We discussed that. So they're not stupid. They're doing what they're doing to be able to maintain a standard of living for their population, yo. And this is exactly the work that's necessary for modern day men and women who are thinkers and organizers of nations. And so that's Botswana. It went from the second or the third poorest country in the world in the 60s to the fastest growing economy in the world within 30 years. That's a major story that has to be studied by people who love Africa. We have to figure this thing out, y'all, because we can't resign that like all of our generations from now to perpetuity are going to live in America, right? Do you really expect your next 5 generations to live in America and what that's going to look like? That means that we have to go lay the groundwork in our continent, which has a lot of history that we're not even aware of, because a lot of the mainstream education about modern day Africa, a lot of great things have been left out. A lot of great triumphs have been left out. So many of us are unaware of the Botswana story when we should be very, very like studying that story, find out where they made any mistakes and tighten up on it. That's the work that I'm doing in terms of trying to understand this thing, because at the end of the day, GDP speaks for itself. Economic growth speaks for itself. Being in destitute poverty speaks for itself. And then 30 years later, making $20,000 a year on average. That's different. In Africa, $20,000 a year, average, in terms of the cost of living being so cheap, that's a nice middle-class income. In America, you might not think so, because everything is so overpriced here. But $20,000 a year in Africa for a family that wasn't making anything close to that. Remember, you saw a 10,000% increase in 30 years. It's probably a world record. And they were on top of Singapore. So this is a revelatory. It should have been inspiring for everybody. And I'm going to keep doing these types of shows. It may not be salacious, as some people are used to. It may not be based on celebrities, but we're talking about that real shit here. You understand? If you want to get the real talk, of course, we have fun sometimes and talk, but you know, I'm a relatively serious person, and I have certain goals in my life. And to me, I don't see the point of talking about anything else until we figure out our problems and be able to live the lives that we want to live, or else we're just coping. All of our conversations can be categorized as coping. Coping is just settling in to your bad circumstance. That's what coping is. To deal with distractions, or we could decide to start pinpointing the answers to our problems and finding out people who have been successful and emulating what they've done and trying to correct whatever mistakes they may have made, right? Because nobody's perfect. Not you, not me, but I'm not arrogant enough to say I'm not going to learn from somebody who's produced because I don't like one thing that they did or one thing that they said. Nope. We have to have adults in the room. You know, adults have to be in the room. And many times, even those of us who are ideologically bent will throw out the baby with the bathwater. We'll say, oh, we don't want to listen to him because he was married to a colonizer, right? And you want to ignore all of his policies around like interest rates and getting good deals for mining and not being corrupt and all of that. So at some point, we have to understand that there is nobody on earth that you're going to find that you agree with 100% or agree with what they did 100%. The only people who believe or agree with anyone 100% are people who are in a cult, right? So you have to believe whatever the leader does, right? So because we're not in a cult, we can parse the good from the bad from an individual, right? So this might be an individual who might have done something or had some aspect or some policy that you didn't like there, but let's look at the cumulative effect of their policies and to see if we can take the good ones and then leave the bad ones behind. That's what adults do. We're not looking for perfection out of any human being. We're looking for results. So when we start to evaluate these leaders, it's not enough for someone to say, oh, but he did X, Y, Z. And then I'm going to say, well, he took the country from the second poorest to, the fastest growing economy, which has a real consequence on the children. He took infant mortality rates down. He took, healthcare to be free. He made education free. He made entrepreneurs free to do business and hire people and grow. And this is what needs to be studied and talked about. All the other stuff, don't salute it. I'm not into supporting people. I don't support people. I support ideas and performance. That's my litmus test, because people will let you down. Human beings will let you down. You can find fault in anybody. You can find fault in Marcus Garvey. You can find fault in Malcolm X. People debate this day between Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, and they, we're looking for fault in individuals. But let's talk about ideas. Let's talk about performance and results. So can I love what Elijah Muhammad did in terms of people in jail and cleaning them up and taking them off of drugs? Hell yeah, that needs to be studied. Do I like what he did in terms of impregnating young girls that Malcolm X was talking about? No, I don't like it at all. But I'm not here to support Elijah Muhammad. I'm here to support results. So if you start looking at people that way based on results and the results you like to emulate, then we don't get into personality debates, because any individual you can find one thing that you don't like about that person. But since we're not into worshiping individuals, I'm into worshiping results. So I'm focused on the results. And I'm looking to take, and what you're seeing in my methodology is I'm looking to take from the results of different people around the world and integrate that into results that I would like to implement, or the results that I would like to see. So you're not going to come to me and tell me, oh, but Nayib Bukele did X, Y. He put too many people in prison with the gang sweep up. Yeah, there could be some innocent people that got caught up in that. And I definitely sympathize with that. But that's not enough to say I'm not going to study Nayib Bukele, or I'm not going to study Paul Kagame, or I'm not going to study Lee Kuan Yew, or I'm not going to study Suraj Khan. I'm going to study these people because they've produced more results than anybody else you know of. That's just the reality of the situation. All the people that you like, they've not produced the results of these men that we're covering. So what do? It's a popularity contest, or is it a results contest? To me, it's a results contest. So if you like someone who's going to sing nice to you so you can go to bed good, that's fine. I want to know, how did you build these roads? How did you build these mines? How did you build this? How was this done? How did you take a country from A to Z? I want to know. That's the type of time I'm on. And so, big up to those people who tuned in. But I think that this was a very good show, because we got to learn about something that a lot of people don't talk about, which is Botswana. And I've been getting a lot of messages from people from Botswana say, hey, this is a great country to do business. I see you doing business in Africa. You're very welcome to come and develop in Africa. And they have a Pan-Africanist ideology too, outlooks. They're not just about, oh, Botswana. They're like, let's develop Africa. Come, if you're in these countries doing what you're doing, come do it in Botswana too. That's the messages that I got. Hey, Heru, I hear you in Rwanda doing X, Y, Z. I hear you in, Gambia doing X, Y. I hear you in Ghana doing X, Y, Z. Can you bring some of what you're doing to Botswana? These are the messages I've gotten. So that's what caused me to look into Botswana. I'm like, damn, Botswana's on point. They want entrepreneurs, as you saw in that incubator, in that technology hub. They want entrepreneurs from around the continent and the diaspora to come and set up shop and take care of what you need to take care of and develop industry. I don't know what else is more important. So these are the real conversations that we have, y'all. And just believe you me, I don't care if it's 3 people listening or 3,000 people or 3 million people listening. I'm going to keep pushing this type of energy because we don't need millions of people on this program. We just need a few hundred of the right people setting up shop and taking care of business, and we get the lion's share of the rewards. That's just what it is. Those who take the early risk early, those who take that risk early are the ones who get the lion's share of the rewards. Those people who get involved in something very early gets the lion's share of the rewards. And that's the type of time I'm on. And I'm just trying to just soak everyone with some type of game, because when I go back and forth to Africa, I see the opportunities and I see how much money is being left on the table that we're missing out on, that I refuse to miss out on, you know. But you have to know the proper places to find yourself so you can have an ease of doing business. I'll repeat again. In Rwanda, it took me 10 hours to get my first business license, and it cost $0. In Botswana, it cost $35. In Ghana, it cost me about $500, and it took 7 months, right? So the ease of doing business in Ghana is almost non-existent compared to Rwanda and Botswana. Why would you make it difficult for entrepreneurs to register a business? Why would it take 7 months if you're serious about building a country? You see what I'm saying? These are the types of things that I see, and I'm like, okay, they're not ready. And you've got entrepreneurs leaving. Like I said, I know a few who've left Ghana to come live in Rwanda and do business. Some are going to Mauritius. Some are going to Botswana. Listen, entrepreneurs just need some elbow room. We just need some room to move around and do our thing. Just get out of our way. Open up the capital markets to us. Allow investments to flow to us. We'll take care of the rest. We'll hire people. We'll train people, because we're addicted to the action. That's what entrepreneurs are. Entrepreneurs are addicted to the action. The risk doesn't bother them. The hard work doesn't bother them. I don't mind to stay. I mean, I've got stories. I've told y'all when I started the olive leaf business, for the first 2 years, I pulled mainly 18-hour days and slept for 6 hours. And the rest of the time I was awake, I was working. I had very little time to lounge when I started the business. I was doing 18-hour days from beginning to end of the production, dealing with customers and dealing with stores and pharmacies and going to the post office and bottling and talking to suppliers and dealing with shipping. But it was a great education. And I knew that this was a business that I had to do because I'm addicted to the action. So if I'm going to work, I'm going to work for myself. I would rather work 18 hours for myself than 8 hours for another person. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? Entrepreneurs are a different breed of people that need to be treated really with the red carpet. Until African governments recognize that, you're not going to have economic growth. If you make it difficult for your entrepreneurs, particularly your domestic entrepreneurs, to actually set up shop, all they're going to do, those people who are entrepreneurs, you know what they're going to do? They're going to do business and just not register it. They're going to do little, hand-to-hand business. They're going to set up little pop-up shops, and you, the government, are not going to get a piece of it because you won't know who to go to, get their income taxes because they're not registered with you. So what you have is you have an underground business environment all over a lot of these developing countries who haven't figured it out yet. Because an entrepreneur is going to eat. Don't get that twisted. Like a true entrepreneur is going to eat. They're going to eat. They're going to sell something. They don't care if it's legal or illegal. A true entrepreneur needs action. They're addicted to the action, and they are going to eat. So you as the government need to figure out, are you going to play with them or are you going to play against them? And if you play against your entrepreneurs, you will have poverty. If you play with your entrepreneurs, you'll have wealth. Because all entrepreneurs want to do is grow. And growth takes employees. That's how you scale. Don't you want more employees, more your college students being hired when they get out of college, or you want them to drive taxi cabs after they get out of college? You got engineers, doctors, lawyers driving taxi cabs because they can't get a job because entrepreneurs aren't in place with businesses to hire them. Entrepreneurs are always going to eat. Even if they got to leave the country, they're going to go eat somewhere else. So it would be wise to get that situation together. As an entrepreneur like me, I'm just looking for different countries that's going to be easy for me to set up shop to do what I do. And if it's difficult, I'm out of there. You understand? It's 2024. We don't have time to be playing around with y'all. We just don't have it. We're not here to take any shorts. We're not here to deal with government rigmarole. We're not here to have meetings with government officials every 3 days about different regulations and this and that. No. Let me understand what your rules are. Let me see how tedious they are. Let me see how much they're going to cost me. Then I'll make a decision if I want to set up shop in your country. If not, I've gone somewhere else. Africa got 54 countries. I'm looking for the best environment to be in with the best lifestyle for me and my family. Period. And that's where everyone else is at now. It is what it is. So big up to Botswana. Big up to the leaders of Botswana for, if you are stealing, we know that you ain't stealing like the other people are stealing because you're actually developing your country. So salute to you on that. You know what I'm saying? Salute to getting 10,000% increase in the wealth of your population. If I go to Botswana, I'm going to sit down and talk to some movers and shakers, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about 3D manufacturing, all of that. Don't be surprised if by next year you see me doing something in Botswana wearing I Got Action t-shirt. Don't be surprised because I go where the action is. That's just what it is. I'm addicted to the action. And if there's no action, I just stay still. Like if I'm in a place, I'll just stay still. I'm not going to break my neck for a situation where there's no action. But if you set up the playing field that I can actually compete, I'm going to be there because I like to compete. Because I like winning. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we're at 11 o'clock. I try to keep this hours, usually Monday through Wednesday. Thursdays tend to be a little bit more spicy. So we're at pretty much at the 3-hour mark. I don't know if anyone got any questions, anything they want to say. I know a lot of people will participate in the text and everything. Feel free. I'll give folks a minute or two to see if they want to chime in and say anything or ask any questions. It's best to do it now because I get a lot of inboxes and I'd like to answer questions publicly so I don't have to kind of rehash them to everybody. So, but if there are no questions and everything was pretty much self-explanatory and you all got the point, I try to play videos that get straight to the point and explain things very simply. So now you all know who this president of Botswana was, and you all now know the Botswana story. It's not the most detailed story, but elements of it now that you can have what you would call an intelligent conversation with others. You know what I'm saying? So big up President Khama, remember that name, Khama, President Khama, the first president of Botswana. He took the country in a direction that has not been derailed. So that's the type of energy we love, And like I said, we're going to cover Rwanda one of these times. That'll be more in depth just because I've, lived there and spent a lot of time there. So I have personal stories. And I learned, she says, Kashaku says, I learned a lot. Yeah. This is the whole point of the show. And, that's all we can do is just try to educate each other because, you can't rely on the system to educate you. You can't rely on social media, like basic social media. If you don't curate your content, you can't rely on that to educate. You can't rely on your friends to educate you, because your friends are subject to the same BS in the environment. So you do have to find places where there's a repository of information that's helpful to you in your life. So hopefully this show can serve as one of those places. I know we have people who tune in religiously every, Monday to Thursday at 8 o'clock. I see certain people. I think there's about 10 people who tune in religiously to this show, because they know that it is bringing value in their lives. And as it grows, we'll be bringing more value to other people's lives, and we'll be investing in each other. I mean, today, what you got out of it is you saw a manufacturing company that you can actually buy electronics from, phones, TVs, in Botswana. It's called ditech.co.bw. Check them out. Even if you don't buy anything, just have their website in one of your bookmarks just for spite, and show your children, hey, this is what they're manufacturing in Africa. This is what we are doing in one of our countries in the world. Let them know that it's part of them, and it's part of their legacy too. You understand what I'm saying? Let them know, hey, we're manufacturing refrigerators in Botswana. And make sure you say we, so that they have an article of inclusion to know that they're part of this, because it's a global works that we're doing. Those of us that are contributing to our growth, we didn't do it just for ourselves. We did it to prove a point, and we did it to be free, economically and otherwise. So show your children the website of African-made products, high-tech products, to let them know that it's a possibility for them as well, because a lot of times they can't even dream what they can't imagine, right? It's hard to dream what you can't imagine. So you need to now have in their imagination the possibilities that they also can make cell phones, instead of just being users of cell phones. They can actually be the manufacturers of cell phones, because there's other people who look like them that are doing it in a place called Botswana. This is very important. You can't dream what you don't imagine. So we've got to step up the imagination of our people past, other things, to like things that actually really matter, where the rubber meets the road. That's my challenge to everyone. Like, change your imagination. Like, imagine the craziest, most powerful things for yourself and your people, and then try to at least come to fruition on some aspect of it. And you'd be surprised how far you would get. You'll never think that you could reverse cancer if you can't imagine it, because they've told you it's a disease that has no solution, which is untrue. We've proven it. It's untrue. You go to herbalresults.net for that. Go to the testimonials page. You'll see them. That's only because I never believe what these people say is being true. My imagination is far greater than the shackles that they've tried to put on my mind. Oh, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't be a lawyer and also like master health and medicine. Just be a lawyer. Like, they try to pigeonhole you. Oh, you can't be a lawyer and also do engineering work. That's not true. My life has proven none of that is true. You just have to have a great imagination and believe in yourself, and have small wins, successive small wins that make you feel like a giant, that you can actually engage in bigger wins. That's my life. That's a lot of other people's lives. We have to have confidence in ourselves. And when I see the success of places like El Salvador, of Botswana, of Rwanda, of Singapore, of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, when I see the success, what I mean by success is world-class level success. I'm not talking about like pockets of success. I'm just talking about like all around measures of success. And when you're in those countries, you feel like this is a beautiful place. That's how I measure success. And so because I've seen that other people have pulled it off, I feel like I can do it too. So that's what this show is about, is just to welcome you all to the number of folks who believe that they can pull it off. And if you're not there yet, you will be. Just keep watching the show. You'll realize that none of these were like special people. These were just determined people. They were not like the biggest geniuses on earth. They just saw things clearly executed, and they were honest, and they didn't steal from people. They didn't steal from their population. That seems to be the running thread. Because countries make money. It's just what's done when the money's there. Usually, in most of these underdeveloped countries that are perpetually underdeveloped, that money goes to the leader and his minions, straight to their pockets, and not into the development of the country. And then the policies suck. So we're going to keep seeing that. Now, hopefully that's just reforming your thoughts about the world. Saying, oh, okay, this is where I need to find myself. Oh, okay. There's more information need to be gathered about Botswana. That might be a destination. That could be home for me. Like, that's what I say to people, they go to African country, don't buy land in the first African country you go to. Travel around, move around a little bit before you decide to settle down somewhere, because there may be a Botswana you never heard of that could be home for you. The perfect environment for you and your children, with the perfect policies, the perfect security, lack of crime, lack of corruption, entrepreneurship, access to capital markets. Like, it's important. We're not kids anymore. Like, I keep saying that we're not kids anymore. And at this point, 2024 is for the adults to take over the room. It's time for the adults to take over the room. You know, and whenever, whenever people are in danger and are not performing, you're going to have to give way to the people who perform and people with high levels of intelligence and who've proven it. They have to be your leaders. They have to be the ones who are like, you know, given radio time and air time and all of this. I mean, look at Black America. The people of Black America who are given all the TV time and the air time are very, 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 very low intelligence people. People who don't think well, people who don't put thoughts together well, people who have no understanding of history, no understanding of economics, but they're thrust to the forefront and they're just entertainers, basically. And that's what Black America gets in terms of who is speaking to Black America. You have degenerates. And if you're going to want a turnaround of the situation, and the people who are known to the public have to be your engineers, your scientists, people who understand economic theory. Like, they have to become the forefront, not these people who you call celebrities who you later found out had to have sex with pigs and get recorded. Real talk. They had to have literally sex with pigs, as Dom Lucre pointed out in his interview. Don't ever forget that interview. And if you need to see it again, text me, I'll send you the link for it. There were like 3 choices that him and his artist had to engage in, and it was going to be recorded before they can get a big record contract. So most of these people that you all love to like gossip about and wonder about what they're doing and hang on every word, some of them were having sex with pigs to get the microphone held in front of them to talk to you and to sing to you and to act to you. They had to do things that none of you would ever respect. But we're quoting their words and talking about their lives as if they're important people when they're not. Just remember that the most important thing that an actor did as an actor is make believe. So when you talk about actors and these people, you're worshiping people who are playing make believe for a living. Like, why would that be important? I understand entertainment's important to people, but why would that person be important? Why would his or her words be worth anything? This person doesn't even write their own script. Someone else wrote it. They're just parroting the words and make believing along with it, but this person has more attention in your mind, in your family's mind, in your relationship with your friends and your children than Seretse Khama, the president of Botswana. Like President Khama, Seretse Khama should be somebody that we're talking about if we're serious. Maget Wade should be someone we're all talking about if we're serious. Nayib Bukele, Paul Kagame, Lee Kuan Yew. These should be regular conversations in your household. And if you start having these types of conversations and these types of banter, you'll understand that your children, even if they don't feel what you're saying, it'll rub up on them. And so when they do grow up, they'll be cognizant of these conversations. They'll be conversant. Like, don't expect your children to change if you haven't. Don't expect your environment to change if you haven't. You know, and I'm kind of preaching to the choir because I would imagine that anyone who's tuned in at 11 p.m. Eastern time to watch me say these things, you know, they're seeing value in it. And so you all are very unique people. But I want us to step our game up. Like, I want us to step our game up to actually having the independence to move around, to live where we want to live, to be entrepreneurs and to take it seriously and be like really movers and shakers, so that like documentaries are done about us one day. Each and every one of us have the ability to become heroes for our people, for our families, and to have documentaries done about us if we have the proper understanding of how change happens and how growth happens. And no, you won't be successful all the time, but goddamn, it's worth trying. What else is worth it? Like, nothing else is worth it. Like, nothing else is more valuable than the opportunity to be great and to make a long-lasting impression for generations in perpetuity. To me, that's the best. That's what I'm aiming for. That's what I want out of my life. And I want it for everyone here. And I realize not everyone thinks like me. But those of y'all who do, we're going step by step as to how these things happen. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happens with planning. You know what I'm saying? I didn't develop what I developed by accident. I had to sit down and look at myself one day and say, damn, you got to clean up your credit. If you're going to really be a player in this world of business and entrepreneurship, you need to have access to capital. And the only way you can get access to capital is if you have a certain credit score. So one of the first things I did when I changed my financial life was I cleaned up my credit. I hired a credit agency, and they got all the bad stuff off of my credit and raised my credit score to a place where I could start playing ball. But before then, I was just an artist, and I was like off grid, and I didn't care. But then when I decided to take a different direction in my life, I had to make an assessment. If you're going to have a family, if you're going to have a wife that you're going to take care of, if you're going to be economically free, you can't do that as a 9-to-5er. You're going to have to be a business person who has access to capital. And that comes with a good credit score. So that was the first thing that I did when I decided to change my life, my economic life. So none of this is done by accident. Like, people weren't born with a golden spoon in their mouth. There were times when, as an adult, I had $5 into my name. I've told that story. In my bank account, like $5. I've told that story. So nobody's gonna talk to me about nothing because I know what it's like to be without. I know what it's like to go without food. When I was in law school, I used to eat every other day because that's all I had money for. Literally, I ate every other day when I was in law school. My first year of law school, I lost like 40 pounds. And I'm not like a very big person, like chunky person to begin with. I've been thin most of my life. So imagine losing 40 pounds when you were already thin, because I ate every other day, because that's all I had money for when I was in law school, my first year of law school. So nobody's gonna tell me about suffering because most of y'all ain't even been through what I've been through. But I also know what the other side looks like of being prosperous. But it doesn't happen by accident. You have to plan and not be distracted and not be doing what everyone else is doing. And don't let people lead you into different directions because they're ideologically bound to this or that, particularly people who haven't been successful themselves. There's no need to follow them. Find templates for success and reverse engineer it. That's all. And be willing to sacrifice. And be willing to concentrate. And be willing to be selfish about your time. That's real. Be selfish about your time when you're focused on doing something that's going to transform your life for you and your family. Don't let anybody tell you nothing else, because guess what? When you're struggling and you ain't got no one to turn to, nobody's looking to help you out. Nobody. You better learn how to fend for yourself through your own focus, dedication, desire, and zeal, and humility. I've been humbled. Life has humbled me. So I know what it's like. Like I told you all. I knew when I went to law school for the first year, I didn't get something happened with my loans, so I didn't get personal loans. And my father was sick, so I had no access to money. And law school was so intense the first year. It was hard to have a second job, or else it was easy to flunk out. So all my friends got loans, and some of them were on scholarship. And I literally ate every other day. I would eat Mondays, Tuesdays I wouldn't eat, Wednesday I would eat, Thursdays I wouldn't eat, Friday I would eat. And it would just keep going like that. So I learned how to eat every 40 hours or something like that. And that's how I got through law school. You understand what I'm saying? But my story is not unique. When you talk to other people, people got more tragic stories than that. I'll tell y'all a story, not now because it's towards the end. Maybe tomorrow I'll tell you all the craziest story that changed my life, that got me to never complain. I'm going to tell y'all that story tomorrow. That'll be the beginning of the show tomorrow. That'll be my story time. I'll have to remember that. But a brother told me a story of what he went through. And when he told me that story, I said, I'll never complain about nothing in my life. Ever. So suffering is relative. Trust me. You think you got a bad story, wait till you hear other people's stories and see if you want to feel sorry for yourself. Real talk. Because anybody, how bad your story is, there's people that you might not even be aware of that you know who've got a story much worse than yours. So we all got stories. But yeah, I'll share that story time with y'all. Yeah, facts. We all got stories, man. But resilience is the key. The resilience of the human spirit to keep going on and to win and to be successful. That's what we're here for. And all of us have what it takes, because if we didn't have what it takes, the human being would not be here so many generations for tens of thousands of years. So the human being has the ability to be resilient. Our only problem is focusing on the wrong things and not executing. That's our problem. We spend most of our time focusing on things that are irrelevant. We don't have the luxury to do that. Start curating your life. Most of y'all, it would be better if y'all just caught sleep than to be engaged in half of the shit y'all are engaged in terms of the conversations you're having during the day and the social media arguments that you're part of and the social media scrolling. You find yourself doing that, just turn it off and just go to sleep. Get some sleep. At least you can heal your body. That'll be better for you to just get some sleep than to be absorbing what you're absorbing through the entertainment industry of America and social media and friends who ain't talking about nothing serious. Just turn off the phone and go to sleep. You probably accomplish more in the dream world than you will in the waking world. Straight up. Then when you wake up with intention to get something done serious or to learn something serious. Mute all of the foolishness from your life. Trust me, they'll be around. I told y'all when I decided to study money and become an entrepreneur, I made a commitment that I wouldn't talk politics for 1 year, because after a year, the same people are going to be around talking the same talk. But in that 1 year, I would have transformed my mind, my worldview, my modus of action to a place that propelled me to have economic freedom while I had the same people that I used to deal with in the same place, having the same debates about politics and history. So it's not easy, but it sure is worth it. And trust me, I'm talking from experience. This isn't somebody who just was born out of the sky and I was just giving everything that I got. Remember, there was a time I only had $5 to my name, and I was 22 years old. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I digress. It's 11:30. Folks have tuned in, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Big up. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, feel free to do so. If you don't follow me on Twitter, feel free to do so. Facebook, whatever, they player haters, so it is what it is. I ain't too up on Facebook like that. But Twitter and even YouTube for now, y'all can go ahead and follow, like, and then if this was empowering to you in any way whatsoever, we keep score with Cash Apps. $ Herbal Results, if you dig it. And for those who've been asking, the maximum strength is back in stock as of tomorrow. It just reached the shipping warehouse today from the factory. So, those people who've had cancer, who've been waiting for the maximum strength, it's available now. At least it's in the warehouse now. It's being organized for, inventory and all that stuff. It might take a day or two, but it's there now, and y'all can go. So y'all don't have to keep sending me inboxes. So big up to everybody. Have a good evening. We'll be tuned back in tomorrow for Wednesdays. I'll be posting what the topic is tomorrow. Sometime during the day, it'll appear on YouTube as to, what the topic is, and Facebook as well. So just stay tuned, man. Just want to say enough love to you all for tuning in. Hopefully this conversation about Botswana was enlightening and inspiring. Blessed night. Blessed love to everybody.